butt stuff.
God dang it. Hello, everyone. That's the first thing out of the gate. All right. How you guys doing? We're on today, all of us, except Matt. We'll be kicking him out shortly.
Hashtag boot Matt.
Hashtag boot Matt, exactly. We've got on today Matt and Mill and Miss Snarky and Bionic Dance, also known as Kate, and Peter and Karis, all of them. And then, of course, me. And I've been really wanting to do a stream like this where we just hang out and talk about things past, future, in alternate timeline.
Talk about stuff instead of things.
We'll allow that, yes.
Okay.
And so because school and work currently have been, understandably, I think, cutting into what I'm able to do. I've not produced a new video in like over a week now, which is unfortunate because I'm sitting on some interesting ideas and some I've been trying to get out there for a while. And so we're doing this. We're going to talk about stuff. Just stuff for some of us.
What are you working on, Jackson? Curious.
I've got a video with like half the script done for it, which is unusual because I usually finish these things pretty quickly. But it's been like half a script for a week. No, back behind your avatar. No, just kidding.
Well, you totally doxed me and called me Matt, so I can't be GI today.
Oh wait, Trey calls you Matt.
Hey, Trey calls me Matt. Did I ever tell you you could call me Matt?
That's fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, you can call me Matt.
Okay, well, thank you for the.
But can he call you sweetheart?
Can he call you Al?
Can I call you tonight after the stream?
I call it Sugar Kids.
Don't talk about our midnight calls.
Can I call you the guy where everyone shows up late when he's live streaming?
Yes.
Can I call you a confidential coordinating first chief executive deputy assistant?
That was a mouthful.
Yes, but you have to use that every time.
Matt.
Okay.
Matt, can I call you husband?
Soon.
Yay!
Speaking of, before I actually get to what I was supposed to answer, the question I was supposed to answer, I don't know if you guys saw that Godless Engineer and girlfriend, Chloe, Kale and Chloe, they are now engaged.
He liked it, so he put a ring on it.
There you go.
Yay! I'm so happy. Congratulations again.
Yep. Congratulations to them. Cool, guys.
Yay.
Also invited in the stream if you guys happen to see this. But so my next video is supposed to be on the alleged fossils out of place ones. Actually, now that I think about it, where the heck is RJ? God, dang it, where's RJ?
You should be personally offended if RJ doesn't show up.
It's fossils out of place. It's the fossils creationists talk about, like the Delk print, things like that, which are these, alleged like dinosaur and human.
RJ's in the chat right now.
God dang it, RJ! Here's the link for it.
RJ, go in the DM and get in here. He put the link in. Just scroll up.
So that's my next one. I'm getting very close to my dinosaur phylogeny series. Getting ever so close to that. I'm excited for it. So, other than that, not much really. What is going on with the rest of you? Who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll do it.
Or Kate. Kate also works. Let's go.
So most of what I've been doing lately is working on some animation projects. All of it's some really super cheesy science fiction. There's one called Quinn Redshift, which is very much sort of like a Spaceman Spiff meets Buzz Lightyear kind of thing. I've also got something going on called Java Centauri, which is a coffee shop full of aliens. And they're just sort of, actually it would be more at home in the 90s because it's just this stream of consciousness stuff. There's no like plot or anything. But more than anything else, I've got stuff coming up. I'm sure I've told a lot of you about the fact that I'm going to be having some brain surgery soon on the 27th. That's supposed to hopefully cure my epilepsy. So that'd be great. They told me that I have to be at the hospital at like 5 a.m. so they can start at 7. And I'm thinking if you're going to be operating on my brain, it needs to be happening at midnight with thunder and lightning, like some sort of Frankenstein thing, right? That makes the most sense to me. So That's what I got going on.
Wow.
Well, that's pretty neat. I agree.
Speaking
You
of
should get nice.
coming up, Karis thinks this stream is about orgasms.
Isn't
I'm
that
sick
for
today,
everything
so
with
my
Karis?
typing. It's my typing, guys. I'm just sick. Blame it on the fever.
Yeah. Sure.
Your fingers
Is it
twitching
supposed to
too
be
much.
organism something?
Yeah,
Twitchy
it's,
fingers.
yeah.
So who wants to go
Lord.
next?
I'll do it.
Okay. Yeah, but
Mel,
who can
you've been-
top brain surgery? Like, really?
Oh, goodness.
That's true. I'm interested.
Since we have scientists on the panel, I have a question. Is the wrist part of the hand?
Is the wrist part of the hand?
Or has it been
Yes.
considered part of the hand?
It has its own. It's
I was-
part of its own. It has its own bone structures.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're separate from the actual hand part. I wouldn't consider them to be part of the hand.
Is this a
in
bet you
itself.
have with someone, Peter?
No, it's
Bible
it's
verses.
about a certain guy who was nailed to a cross, and it said the nails went through the hand, and then I told him that they actually went through the wrist.
You told the guy who was nailed through the. It wasn't his hand?
In
No,
all
they-
fairness, though, earlier in scripture, it does talk about people wearing bracelets on their hands. So I don't. Anybody here who's familiar with,
but
history
hold-
in that area?
Karis, they're Christians. You can't expect Christians to wear the bracelets on the place where they actually need to be worn.
Very
I don't
strange.
know.
I'm not
Can you
familiar with the
do
discussion.
that again? That'll help Jackson get subscribers.
If I had to classify them, I'd say that the wrist is part of the arm, not the hand.
Yeah.
If I had to classify them.
We're forcing you to right now. I got a gun to your head and go. We've also got RJ Downard has now joined us. Welcome, RJ.
Oh, Apology is in the chat.
Oh, you can come in if you want also.
Go into the
He said he's waving hi and bye. So hi,
okay,
Paul.
sorry.
Hi, Paul.
Oh,
Hi.
Night.
Bye.
that was
He's too cool for this chat now.
Paul, you're supposed to last longer than that.
Oh.
Oh my god.
I
That's pretty
love
great.
how prepared he
Goodness.
is for that. It's so awesome.
What else we got going on, folks? I do want Mel, tell us about your jelly juice thing. What's going on
Okay.
recently?
It's not her jelly juice.
Oh God, I don't have any. My jelly juice happens to be a little bit of a cider right now. There's no heavy salt in it, and I won't be sitting on the toilet for 3 days begging for death. So, other than that, last week I was on Non Sequitur, and I was supposed to be opposite Jilly, and she chickened out 2 hours prior. Mostly because she says that she thought Kyle was going to put dick pics up on the show, and that she was like, well, I can't be a part of that. But really what it was people were making jokes, and she said, not today, Satan. And then she left. And the next day she posted, well, I ended up, okay, so we went on anyway, and Jeff Holiday come on, and he talked about his experience with her on Dr. Phil. And then I went through and started ripping apart her lovely paper, and I use that term loosely. This reads like a really large Donald Trump tweet. That's like the best analogy I have. It
Coming
makes
soon to
absolutely-
a cell phone near you.
Oh God, I don't want to think about that. I'm going to pretend that's not really happening in my ignorant bubble just for a little while longer. So I went through, and I was essentially going to go through this and talk about, and I did talk about the different things that were absolutely bonkers that she wrote. And so my new project, I've actually started paying for Facebook ads and Twitter ads to boost some of my Jilly Juice videos to try to get that out there and just, kind of counter all of that noise that she throws out. And that's coming out of my own pocket. And so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm working with Kate from Pathos. I'm going through I'm going through her paper, and I'm redlining all of it. It's 75 pages. She calls this a book. And it's her response to the Ohio Attorney General Michael DeWine investigative docket. So the Ohio Attorney General is actually investigating Jilly. They're being pretty tight-lipped about it. Kate from Pathos has already called and tried to get information about it, and they're not really sharing anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rip apart all the science and that there is none in here outside of papers that she actually entire pages where she's quoted them and then misrepresented it shortly after in a paragraph. It was just,
No,
I
have
go
a
through.
question.
Sure.
Does she claim that chili juice cures perhaps autism?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So does that mean that as long as they have some of this, everybody can go get vaccinated now?
It includes even like homosexuality, getting rid of that.
If I may, until now, I've actually never heard of jelly juice. What in Hades is it?
Okay,
Go ahead, Mel.
It's from Hades, yes.
Yeah, it might as well be. So this woman her name is Jillian. She lives in Ohio. She admits to not have, and here, I'll tell you. Let me just read this to you. She has no formal training. Okay, and so they asked her, do you have any medical training? She essentially she has this recipe where she takes cabbage and there's a high amount of salt. 1 gallon of her jelly juice has about 28,000 milligrams of sodium. And the average daily intake for a healthy person is around 1,500. Okay. So she's encouraging people to take cabbage, mash it all up, throw it into this jug, put ridiculous copious amounts of salt in there, add water, put a lid on it, and let it sit at room temperature for 2 to 3 days. And she's trying to encourage bacterial growth. And I've been reading through all of this of what she says the science is behind her stuff. And one of the questions that the Attorney General had for her was substantiation of any and all medical training and education you have had. She goes, admittedly, I do not have any formal medical training and education. I consider that a benefit. With all due respect to the researchers and experts that offer research studies, data, and information, the concepts that I support may have been previously overlooked due to compartmentalization or a variety of other factors. Maybe because there's nothing science. It's dangerous.
I mean,
medical doctors sat there and said, your recipe can make people have strokes, heart attack, kidney failure, high blood pressure, all of these things. And if these people are already ill and drinking this stuff, this is worsening their condition. It's put 2 women in the hospital from mini strokes. And she's like, oh, you didn't stick it out long enough. That's why.
So I've heard that she's.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It causes explosive diarrhea, and that's what she calls waterfalls. And so after like the first or second day, you're in intense amount of pain. That's your body purging all the parasites and the evil yeast and the bad bacteria out of your body. No, that's called your body is losing lots of water because you're increasing a large amount of sodium and your cells are drying out. But whatever. She knows everything apparently, and
So I did hear that she says that it can regrow limbs.
She thinks that too, but she's yet to cut off her finger, and I really wish she would.
What can it do with already existing limbs?
Dry out the cells within them.
Oh, I think I know what you're going for.
Oh boy. Let me read some of this stuff to you. First of all, she put the entire periodic table in here.
Because people need that in a chemical paper. They need to see what the table looks like in a paper.
Extra sciencey. And some of my
that'd be like putting the entire geologic history.
Man. So I was gonna show you something I read today. Let me see if I can find it. She was talking about, oh my God, she was talking about water and oxygen, and she said that water is made up of 2 molecules of hydrogen and a molecule of oxygen. No, it's atoms, not molecules. There's only one there.
A molecule of oxygen.
A molecule of 1 oxygen atom. And and the sentence she has is, according to elementary science, water H2O consists of 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen.
I've got some O5 here.
It's
All
just
I know is like the 90s song, those are definitely waterfalls you shouldn't go chasing.
oh my God. And it just I can't. There's just okay.
I'm here all night.
Imagine doing this, letting it ferment on your counter for 2 or 3 days, and then opening it up on day 3 or 4.
Oh, that's got to be
Just-
a mega stench.
Oh, yeah.
God. Yeah, and she encourages people to drink that. Okay, so I think one of my favorite things that I did, and I'm still going back through and finding new gems altogether, is looking at her bibliography, where she quotes the dictionary and Britannica and self.com and physicsclassroom.com. And she quotes Wikipedia, and my favorite is where she quotes the Wikipedia page for Paul Revere.
Sounds legit. Also, I have a question for you guys. How does my voice sound?
It's good now.
A
It
little
was
bit
robot-y.
edgy.
You robot sometimes, but
Oh, crap.
yeah, it's all right
The
now.
internet here sucks for some. Ugh, okay. Well,
Okay.
Paul Revere. That's great.
Paul Revere, man. I'm like, why the heck does she reference Paul Revere?
Yeah, what is the context on that?
And not even Paul Revere and the Raiders.
No,
I mean, come
and
on,
it's
the
I
midnight
was thinking,
run
like-
of Paul Revere was due to the waterfalls that he had.
yeah, it had to be, or the Beastie Boys or something, man. No Sleep Till Brooklyn, followed by Paul Revere, something.
The
And so
white
I
coats are coming. The white coats are coming.
No, there was no white coats when you have those waterfalls.
Oh my God. So okay, so she was essentially saying antibiotics are bad, okay? And so she was going, oh yeah, which page was this? Okay, that was earlier on. Oh, I've got to get these back in order. Anyway, so at this point, she's talking about how antibiotics are terrible. And she goes, cell regeneration is not possible when an antibiotic binder is being used because binders deaden the voice of your body and allows new pathogens in by attacking the innate immune system. The adaptive immune system keeps a mutated homeostasis preserved by fighting known pathogens until the new pathogen is introduced. Here is an analogy to help understanding. Paul Revere now. Okay. Using a binder or antibiotic is like shooting Paul Revere during the Revolutionary War and allowing the British to take over and demolish America. That is the Donald Trump tweet right there.
Even though it hadn't
Wait,
yet.
she cited her analogy.
That never even happens. She's
There is
not-
a tweet for everything. I bet somebody could find something about Paul Revere on Donald Trump's Twitter.
Man, maybe. It's
Tweet for
oh my
everything.
goodness. Yeah, probably. There's probably a tweet somewhere.
Can I jump in real quick? I just got a
Sure.
tweet. So you guys don't know the medical field because wrists are definitely part of the hand. I was just told.
Okay. I think it
So-
could be up for debate, but that's all right.
Well, he's a nurse. I told him what you do for a living and see if he
Wait.
Well, I
can.
had anatomy, so
Which person
I
you
don't know.
He's a young Earth creationist.
Are you talking
nurse.
about the JVK guy?
No,
Oh my
I'm talking about the guy that agreed to debate James,
Oh, that one, the
But still-
anesthesiologist.
but still hasn't done it. He's called Montlake Man on Twitter.
Oh, that guy. Oh,
Oh
that was
man,
not
I've
my
had him
thought.
blocked for like 8 months now.
Ooh, I've encountered Blake Man. Yeah.
And I'm reminded daily why.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a certain nurse guy who stalks my tweets occasionally.
I'm putting my papers back in order. Sorry.
Carol.
I do have one question though, because you were mentioning like legal things going on.
Yes.
And like, because you were talking about the Attorney General, and I've been wondering, is the Attorney General's secretary an Attorney Lieutenant Colonel?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea. I thought about calling these people on Monday and asking them all kinds of questions and be like, dude, what's going on with this? But I don't know that they'll answer. But the plan is to go through and finish redlining this. And then I'm going to scan it and I'm going to upload it on my website and on Kate's column on Pathos. So it's just some of the God. Okay, so the growing a limb thing. Okay. Substantiation. So the Attorney General asked her, substantiation of your claim that using your protocol has the potential to regrow limbs and regrow organs if one was born without them, reverse autism and Down syndrome. She goes, the process of limb tissue regrowth and reversal of disease is not possible without a highly functioning immune system that the protocol supports. Yeah, I don't understand either. I don't know what the hell that means.
At least she should advocate for vaccinations then, since she can just, reverse autism.
And she talks a lot about autophagy, but I don't think she understands what that is.
She believes that her juice can fix chromosomal issues.
Yes.
Phrasing.
Yes, she does. She thinks it can fix chromosomal issues, reverse autism, and all of that. She goes, then the bot. Okay, so she goes, autophagy is construed as a good thing since the process removes bad and dysfunctional cells, so they do not multiply. All right. Then the body can reset and regenerate new healthy cells using bioelectricity and nutrients. And I'm like, what?
No.
Bioelectricity and
Like
nutrients.
good
She
old
seems,
electricity running through the veins.
she thinks they're like batteries, like in the Matrix.
That's why we drink energy juice. Obviously, it all makes sense now.
Just
She
tie it
thinks they're
to
like
an
batteries.
electric eel, I mean.
God, I'm just, oh.
Well, everything is like electrical, isn't it?
It's, oh. She's just, and I had so many questions I wanted to ask her. And the whole thing where she thinks it cures the gay.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, she goes, okay, she bases it on 2 different studies. The first study she bases it on is from National Geographic. I haven't really found this study, but I'm going to look again. It suggests that male birds overexposed to the element mercury show homosexual characteristics. So this is what she took from that.
Never heard it. Gonna go look.
Kate's face when you said that was priceless.
Yeah.
And this is what she took from that. This revelation provides a needed proof of concept that overexposure of certain elements can affect gender preference. Yeah, I could eat charcoal and it's not going to make me gay because it's not going to do anything to me. So exposure to certain elements is useless. And for one thing, I asked my gay friends, how much mercury have you been eating? And are you really a male bird?
I found it.
Really?
It would be so awesome though. Like if I could find some straight chick that I totally dig on and I can start slipping coal into her drink. So over time, she starts to find me attractive.
It's like the lesbian roofie.
Well,
Exactly.
evidently, it says
Kate,
mercury causes homosexuality in male ibises. This is from Nature.
Just males? Oh man, it's not fair. It's never fair.
Exposure to mercury pollution could be hitting some wild birds' reproductive prospects hard by causing males to pair with other males. The main source of mercury globally are coal-fired power plants and gold mining, though in Florida. Mercury was likely to have been released by the burning of medical municipal waste. Wow, that's something.
Wouldn't
there.
this mean that like 90% of the population of men in West Virginia would be gay?
Kate, I've got a terrific idea for you. What you do is, if you find a straight woman, you tell her that you think she might have a fever. Then you buy one of those old thermometers with mercury in it, and you slice the end off, and you put that in her mouth, and just wait until she's gay enough. And
if she lives,
And if she lives,
Now I
you
know why
survive
I
the
was tripping
legal.
over so many ibises in San Francisco.
Oh my God. And then there's another study she looks at where it's a review paper. It's not actually like an experimental paper. It's a review paper. And what it goes through, it's talking about epi markers that tend to be erased while an infant or like a fetus is in the womb. But these epi markers apparently are present in people who are homosexual, but there is no gay gene. But these particular epi markers tend to be present, and there tends to be a difference in sensitivity with androgens. And so, but the thing is this is a review paper looking for a trend. There's no experimental data to support this particular perspective. It's just one of those review papers they put together to where like, hey, this might be a thing. We should get more information on this, but she treats it like it's a thing, like it's actual data, and it's not. It's just people looking at stuff going, this may be a thing. We should start testing this maybe and see if it's something. But there's actually no data on it yet. So, not that I have found yet. So I don't know. It's weird. And so she talks a lot about genomic imprinting, which, by the way, she looked up at one point on Wikipedia. That's the thing that I love about her bibliography. I really need to send it to you, Jackson.
No technical sources, just Wikipedia wherever necessary.
I love
And
that she cited the dictionary. Yeah.
The
that
dictionary.
was my favorite part.
But Wikipedia is the technical source.
Jackson, hold on.
She looks up spontaneous on the dictionary. She legit looks up, and that was on April 2nd, 2018.
has it changed since then?
You know, I should go look spontaneous.
Well, you know, if you're doing it for a school project, you have to put date accessed. So.
Yeah, but it's the freaking dictionary.
What is it,
Jackson? I have to say something because you can just dish Wikipedia, but the guy with the wrist, he just sent me a link to a Wikipedia page which says that the wrist connects the hand to the forearm.
That is indeed
Therefore, it's not part of the hand. It's his own link. Literally the first sentence. I'm going to send him this. So Wikipedia can help. Just saying.
So can
sometimes,
you are really stuck on this wrist and hand thing.
Can I share one of the funniest things I've seen on Twitter in a long time?
Was it looking in the mirror? Oh,
but no.
All right, go ahead.
So someone was okay. Does everyone here know who White Engine is?
No.
Yes.
Okay, so he's a troll that runs with the Red Pill Religion group, but he wrote someone said to him, so if something is exercising their free will by raping a child, are you a dictator if you have the power to stop it? If you don't try to stop it, are you complicit? I love when people try to defend the indefensible and show just how utterly morally bankrupt they truly are. So then White Engine says, nope, because I'm human. I'm not their creator who gave them the choice to choose between good or evil. And so I said, so as a human, you would stop it from happening, but your God, who is supposedly greater than you in every way, just sits back and says, they have free will, nothing that I can do about it. You're better than your God, and that's saying an awful lot. And his response to refute me, nobody is better than God, bud.
There, that settles that.
Wow, what an intense philosophic discourse you guys had.
Just respond with, I am Groot.
We're gonna get you guys on.
Quite a smooth over.
We're gonna get you guys on like some philosophy channel to hash this out.
I totally just responded, I am Groot.
Groot is a god, though.
Well, I know who is better than God. The companion cube.
Yes.
You know, in Infinity War, Groot is like the last one or whatever, but there is still half of Groot remaining on Earth, as in Thor's axe. So
yes,
His species wasn't completely wiped out, so there you go.
This is true. This is true. I can't deal with Infinity War. There are certain films I can't really watch so many times. Logan is one of them.
That was such a
I
good
cannot.
movie. Oh my God.
I've seen it once. I'm like, no, man, I'm not right. I'm still not
Yeah,
right.
It
I
misses
didn't
you.
really
Yeah.
enjoy Logan's run either.
No, regular Logan.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Too much for me.
I'm waiting for the
Okay,
musical.
So
The
do you guys
musical.
want to know what I'm doing on my channel?
No.
Yeah. Tell me.
We have the verdict.
I'm not being monetized. But no, other than
there,
that,
done that.
I'm not monetized either, so it's fine.
I'm
Did
guessing
you guys
butt
see
stuff.
that ibis over there? Oh man,
Yes.
you all
Yeah.
missed it. All right, and squirrel, right?
Pretty sure the butt stuff has something to do with it.
probably they're probably against butt stuff. But anyway, no, I'm actually going into a series of videos on like the basics of philosophy and how it's useful and things along those lines. So that'll be fun to do. But other than that, yeah, I've changed my schedule a lot. I don't do as many videos a week.
Well, that's pretty
Because-
neat. I think a
Want
lot
me
of
to
people
do a commercial for
misunderstand.
that, Matt?
What's that?
Matt, do you want me to do a commercial for that?
Yeah, I did a great commercial for
We're totally not plugging that.
Peter and Karis.
You know, I think that's really interesting because, as near as I can tell, theists have a very lackluster understanding of much of philosophy.
Yes.
Even from my perspective, and I suck at philosophy. So, I mean, I actually I ran. There's a creationist group when I was down at LSU. There's a creationist group that came there every so often, like once a month or so. And one guy kept telling me that trying to prove like things in science was, I think it was just specifically evolution, was a deductive fallacy. And so I literally went to a philosophy professor and brought this to him, and I said, "Is this right?" And he's like, "I don't even understand what they're saying. This is a total misapplication of this is a categorical misapplication of the deductive fallacy." Or you know,
Theists lie
it wasn't a lie. I think he
or
was just didn't
mischaracterize
understand.
things or misuse things.
Just cranial blockage of the rectum. It happens a lot.
Chili juice will help.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, man.
Chili juice cures the ignorance. Okay.
Yes. Well, it helps clear the blockage in the intestines.
Yeah, do you think chili juice would cure an impaction?
It probably could.
There are better
Um,
things to cure that, though.
You would think so. I think it's. Oh, I didn't tell you. She actually. You guys, if you're on Facebook, she actually got banned on Facebook for 30 days.
What was the
Shortly
reason given?
after, she had a series of extremely homophobic and hate speech type of videos. When she found out Kyle was gay, she went off about homosexuals, and then she sat there and said, question my credentials as a scientist. And then she said, I won't talk to any scientist unless they have a PhD and they drink my jelly juice. But you know what? I'm a real
Well, that limits
scientist
their conversations.
anyway.
Well,
You
it's
know,
a
and then she sat there, it
conversation.
was insane. And then she goes, well, she's just like a second grade teacher talking to people of what the difference between water and salt is. I'm like, this woman don't even know me. I'm trying hard not to swear right now because I was quite irritated by her. And
I mean, we've
so-
already been.
What's wrong
It's
with
okay.
fucking swearing?
We'll do it for you
I
now.
try not to, do it for me. because,
Me
you
and Kate
know,
will pick up the slack there.
it's like, but do it like Deadpool. Do it
It's
like
got to be organic.
It's got to be like Deadpool swearing. If you're gonna swear, be creative. So it's like, you know, it just made me so mad because she's sitting there and she's saying, well, you know what? And I won't talk to any scientists unless they got a PhD, and you know, but I'm a real scientist. So she thinks she's a real scientist, but she won't talk to she won't talk to any scientists that don't have a PhD. And in order for them to talk, she won't talk to them unless they actually drink her death juice. And I'm like, nobody's going to actually drink that crap. It's 28 grams of salt. You're supposed to have no more than 1.5 grams per day.
It sounded like she was taking big swigs out of the Great Salt Lake with a lot of pond scum and running it through a blender.
I mean,
Shit,
Archie, this is more like the Dead Sea.
It's insane.
This is more like chugging the Dead Sea, RJ.
Look,
I-
this,
I can't even imagine trying to eat that much salt. I mean, the salt in this pack of corn nuts hurt my tongue. Drinking that much salt all at once would be like murder.
Yeah, wouldn't it like get rid of the skin and harm the mucous membranes and stuff everywhere?
You think it would? I mean, it's definitely going to dehydrate you, and she recommends a gallon of her Jilly juice has about 28 grams of salt, and that's what she recommends people drink.
I got the movie version though. Goop versus Jilly Juice.
Well, we got a question.
We gotta
in there.
throw Gwyneth
There's
Paltrow's
a
stuff
beach
in there
price
too.
question.
Like make them all fight.
Mel,
Beach price
Mel,
question.
Mel, we got a question from Beach Price.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Didn't she?
Cool.
Beach Price asked. Didn't she say she had never tried it herself?
No, I think she has. I'm not certain the amount of salt content she puts in hers, but she's actually pooped herself while on a stream, like live streaming on her own channel. She actually
do
poops
that on a
herself.
date
Entertainment.
She poops herself. She goes, "I'm sorry, I have to go change my pants," and then
Oh
she
my
goes.
God.
And, I mean, it just either if she isn't, she's selling it like she is. So
well,
Oh,
can I
I've
say
got a
that
date. Let me have some Jilly juice.
on Dr. Phil, she looked much healthier than she does in her own videos.
well, it's
She
nice to
does
have
not look
professional makeup,
artist.
man.
Yeah.
Yes,
She
she
was
does not look healthy.
melting. She was melting in that live stream, and I was like, you were going to talk to a real scientist," and then I was blocked.
But she's just a scientist of some sort and supposedly a teacher.
Didn't she poop herself? I'm just asking. That's
She
what I
did.
heard.
That's yes.
Yeah, she poops herself. I guess that maybe that's her thing. I mean, I'm not one to judge, but Lord,
A little
diarrhea-
freakophilia never hurt anyone.
I'm going to judge that a little bit.
Diarrhea is nature's lube. I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
She's either got a career on the Gong Show
And what has RJ been doing
or the
recently?
Trump administration.
Oh,
Let's find out what RJ has been doing. RJ, tell us about your life.
Jackson's like, get me out of this conversation.
I was the one who started this, and I'm
Yes,
already regretting it.
I have done,
Yes.
I have done
Describe for us your bowel movements.
outline pooping, so I'm very, very less dramatic in that respect. But I did fillet Kent Hovind last week. How many people saw my debate? Raise their hands.
I need to watch that.
I have
I did.
hooves.
I want to see that. I'm gonna go watch that.
Yeah,
Mel, this was good.
prepared.
Mel, this was good. I never thought that anyone could slay Hovind in a debate. RJ did.
Told you I would.
I admit I tried to watch it, but there was some weird sound artifacting that just made me go, "This is annoying. Can't keep going. Sorry."
Yeah, the echo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That went a long time. So no
Well, I can
clue.
summarize the points in like a couple sentences.
I think it was the moderator's echo.
Yeah.
I think it was his. But yeah, go ahead, RJ.
He was a very novice person on that regard. I thought it was so weird that I was giving him pointers about how to do wrenches and things like that because he'd never done a Google Hangout before. And I'm looking at him and going, this younger person is being instructed by old fart RJ about this. What is wrong with this picture?
Well, I mean, sometimes the younger guys just don't know how to use their tools.
Yeah.
Did you see that Kent
But
Hovind
anyway,
is-
I was prepared to slide into him, and the Lord hath delivered him into my hands. Because Kent asked me, said that I could go first, and I think that was probably the last time he's ever going to ask that to happen.
You killed me.
We've killed Godless.
Oh gosh.
Hey, all of you, get your minds out of the gutter.
But did you see that Kent Hovind is going to be in a movie
Yes.
with Matt Powell
Matt Powell, oh my gosh.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my God, yes.
and
they're
Steven
actually-
Anderson?
They're like putting together their, which is going to be ironic because don't they hate each other? But it's so funny because it's like Matt's taking his creation moments, which I have debunked all 4 of them, and he's making them into a movie. this is going to be absolute trash.
You know,
Is
Steven
it supposed
Anderson.
to be a
what's going to be-
documentary then, or is he finding some way to make it fiction?
Oh, I hope he puts Anderson and Hovind in the same room, because
would be
that
funny.
could
Oh gosh.
at least then there will be a murder in the movie.
Oh yes.
Well, I'd like to see Matt Powell do like his own version of God is Not Great.
It would be so much worse than the actual movie. And the actual movie was terrible. I mean,
would just-
Man.
he's so entirely. It's not just that he's unoriginal. I mean, you know, sometimes it's hard to make up new creationist arguments, but it's just that he doesn't even understand the arguments he's trying to rip off from these other people.
Yeah.
Like when he like his treatment of the argument where Hovind's like, oh, the nebula was spinning, then we shouldn't have planets rotating in the opposite directions. It's like, actually, we have these very clear, detailed explanations for why Venus and Jupiter, I think, are spinning opposite what they should because they've been struck by multiple objects. It's like, okay, we actually have very clear explanations for these. Matt Powell doesn't know that. He thought it was the singularity that produced the universe was spinning. And so everything, all of the galaxies should be spinning in the same direction. And then everything within them should be spinning in the same direction, including all the planets. So it's like, what? Did you even listen when
Matt's been drinking that jelly juice again, hasn't he?
Oh Lord.
He has some really serious, like fundamental historical misconceptions too. Like Columbus set out to prove the Earth was round. The Greeks wrote the Bible. It's like he doesn't even understand.
That's
He
weird.
probably
Yeah.
did hear
he
that Jilly
thinks
Juice
Hovind is
could
bright, so that pretty well does it.
He probably did hear that
Wow.
Jilly Juice could reverse the gay, and so he's like drinking that stuff like it's going out of style.
Yeah, chug lug, chug
Man.
lug.
Drink up.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and I am surprised he accrued the funding to produce such an abortion.
The flapdoodlers have a support network. I envy them, their support
Oh
network.
gosh.
We all know how hard it is to get support, but boy, over in Wacky Land, they've got them lined up.
Well, hey, they're
Man.
in all tiers of government, so they've got money to spare. So
Yes, as I said, Matt could also have a career in the Trump administration if it lasts long enough.
well, the effects of it certainly will, probably. Very likely. But at any rate, RJ and I are also working on our book continually because we're co-authoring a book. Isn't that right, RJ?
Cool.
Oh yeah, the rocks are still there. Jackson decided to go complete full-blown insane and say, "Hey, let's dismantle the Answers in Genesis Answers book series." And I
All
go,
four of them.
"Hey," because no one's done this before. So we're two people. Between the two of us, we've got a fairly formidable data field. And he's doing a huge amount of the heavy lifting on the chapters, but he handed me the radiometric chapter. And also I've got a bunch of stuff I've organized on the Grand Canyon in that. And so I'm filleting Andrew Snelling and Steve Austin and Woodmarapp and Ord and all those little happy-go-lucky guys that have waded into radiometric dating.
Hell
Wow.
yeah.
It's these things are a nightmare because we started off originally, we were only going to fillet the first one because we only thought there was one. Then we found out there were four, and that they're
They breed like dandelions. They've got a bunch of specialized answers books that focus on particular issues with a lot of double dipping, and then they will reissue them again and again and again without actually noting they're a new publication. So the book that I've got, I will. Ta-da! Matt Jackson sent me a copy of it so that I would have a physical one. You've spent a lot of money on me, kid. Anyway,
it's all right. I like it.
the technical date is 2007, but there are footnotes and references in it all the way up to 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
So
They're
that publication
retreading.
date is meaningless.
Yeah, they're like continually retreading these books. They just are adding stuff and whatnot. It's very strange.
Yeah.
I used to have.
Yeah, I had a wonderful advantage that just came along. It was one of these things where I was sitting up until the wee hours of the morning downloading. There was some idiot decided they were going to actually put up the PDFs of the latest creationist conference that occurred. just in 2017 or so. And so they downloaded all of it. And I go, yay! So just in case these things disappear, I downloaded all of them. I was up into the wee hours doing it. And a whole bunch of those are directly relevant to the radiometric dating issue because they're repeating a lot of their same arguments. And so I've got the original text. So that's all going into the reference base as well. So this will be a pretty damn current book. Dead
Yes,
silence.
I agree. It's looking at the we're pulling papers for some of this stuff up to current year because they have no interest in either to read older material or newer material. So
Yeah,
They're
but
kind of
scientists
adverse
now
to
learn.
reading in general, right?
yeah, just a total lack of
Bye. I have to hop off of here. I got to go handle a thing. But thanks for having me on, Jackson.
All right.
Okay,
Well, bye,
don't
Mel.
drink
Thanks
any
for coming.
jelly juice.
Catch
Oh,
you
I
on the
won't.
lake.
Take you later. Talk to you later. Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Karis, I think you were saying something. But
It wasn't important and I forgot it.
dang, it's probably the most important thing we were going to hear tonight, and now it's lost.
Probably the
Just-
most important thing I'm going to say tonight.
It was the question that is answered 42.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I
it's-
remember what I was going to say. He was holding up the answers book and I was saying, wow, it's a flashback from my fundamentalist days because like we used to have these. So looking
Yep.
at it is, it's kind of a wayback machine. So to
Oh
speak.
yeah, I've got all four
Yeah.
in my little closet over there, and they're just terrible. They're just so bad, and also they're
You're
online.
haunted.
They're three of the four online. For some reason, the fourth one just isn't. I don't know why, but they only tell
Too
you
stupid even for them.
perhaps, but they only tell you like. Well, what's really interesting about it is the way it's written. Number 4 is written very differently from the other ones. It looks less like they're kind of chapter style, and it seems like they're trying to cram more stuff in there. But yeah, it's
In any case, data organization has never been their forte, and it's fun. Of course, but we're doing this from a full source methods analysis, so
Data
it's
has never been their
very
forte.
precise measurement of how they think. Which nobody else has criticized it from that level before in quite this range, plus getting all this material current. So it's going to be juicy. I'm taking care of the grunt work on the side end of working out the full bibliography and the master index to make sure we don't leave anything out and make sure continuity between chapters and all that stuff. So Jackson can be let to fly free like a bird and write his material in pretty much any way he wants, and then I can come in and make some tweaks and all of that, and likewise for my stuff.
yeah. But one of the interesting things that I forgot about and I just now remembered was that they referenced in our third chapter. It references, or Monty White references, a chapter from the fourth book, meaning that the fourth book or one version of the fourth book had to be written before a version of the first book.
Oh yeah, they've referenced later editions of this very book in this book. So
Yeah.
it's a weird incestuous. They don't quite understand what that source citation dating attribution thing is.
That's really redundant.
You keep using this data. I don't think it
Nepocos
means
over
what
in
you
there.
think it means.
It's got a thing in the live stream. Lately, Sal Cordova has been creeping around on evolution forums and Discord service. It's impressive seeing all the nonsense he spews. Yeah, he's a young Earth creationist who ferreted his way into Bill Dembski's Uncommon Descent website, and he still posts there a lot. And there's this kind of a small cadre of young Earth creationists that like to post on there, gradually saying, come into the light. But I'm not sure how long that's going to work.
Yeah. Peter and Karis, what have you guys been doing recently, or what have you got planned for the future? All the above.
Okay. What we're planning for the future is something that used to be done by cowboys. We're going to do it with different animals.
What?
There's a snake in my boot.
Are you going to be like gelding them or something?
No,
Peter,
no.
phrasing.
Herding cats.
Oh, okay.
Not hurting cats.
Herding.
Herding cats.
Well, I heard that you were
I know
going
I'm
to do
Dutch.
something that cowboys used to do. My first thought was,
My mind was elsewhere.
What
I was thinking
cowboy
like
carrying
riding
You-
horses.
cats?
I think Karaz's mind was on a certain
Oh,
movie
ow,
that was
ow.
made about
Okay,
a couple of
no claws.
cowboys.
No claws.
I don't remember the stories of the cat herds being driven across the plains.
Right.
You don't?
No.
Hold on.
chase it with a
okay,
lasso.
I'll try to get a video to
It's a
show.
Super Bowl commercial
actually-
that I got it from.
Yeah. I think I could show it. Hold on.
Oh boy.
I was going to make a lame pun about, hasn't everybody heard of cats?
Mm,
You know what? I remember Ken Ham got upset about a Super Bowl commercial a number of years ago. You guys remember that? He was blogging about the Carnival Cruise did a commercial where they quoted part of Kennedy's speech. It was America's Cup, where he says like, "We're drawn to the ocean, probably because we came from the ocean, and it's where we'll return."
yeah.
So Ken Ham threw a big fit about that. He was like,
Yes, he would.
"Evolution at football games."
Most of the physical reality of the universe offends Ham, so it's not too difficult to tick him off.
Yeah.
Are you done, Peter?
Jackson, am I presenting now to everyone?
You are. We
I
can't hear
find
anything.
myself wondering just
I
how
don't
many
think-
windows you have open.
There's no volume though.
Yeah, you have no sound, but
There are herding cats. Omar.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a commercial from a very long time ago.
I like kitties.
That's ridiculous.
so that's our next plan.
The
You got
herd
you got
cats.
you got yourself how do you call that? A spoof? At least
Satire?
something new. No one ever had before.
So-
I want to
so-
say that I love this because I love cats.
Yes.
All I can think is like that's that scene where the cats are going and it's in shadow and the guy on the horse. My first thought was, is this CGI? How much of this commercial is CGI? But that's just me.
What he's referring to is another show that's coming on our channel.
Yeah. So it's so good, Jennifer. You're going to be in it at some point.
I am.
Yeah.
You're the star of the show.
How do I stop sharing? By the way, there's no button to stop sharing.
We see your avatar. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
Yeah, you're not sharing anymore.
I'm not sharing anymore.
No,
You're
just
sharing
crazy.
only your avatar, Peter.
Oh, okay.
So
Straight-
Peter, you'll
straight-
really
So
find this.
I was a little bit afraid because I was sharing an entire
Sharing.
screen. And if I click away this particular video player, you would see all the porn that I have open.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that that's gone. So okay.
Yeah, we
Okay.
might not only
We-
get demonetized, we might get flagged.
Okay.
Oh man.
So
I didn't-
Peter, something that you might find interesting. One of our favorite people, I'll just refer to them as Sally Jesse Stupid as Hell.
Yeah.
On
I'm not familiar.
Twitter, has recanted on that the first 11 books of the Bible are metaphor, and she now believes them.
Oh, I know who you're referring to. Okay.
But by the way, fun fact. Fun fact. You know that she put out a challenge on the existence of Jesus.
I have heard.
Wait, what does this entail?
And she's willing to once again debate Richard Carrier.
Yes, and Richard
So-
Carrier will do it,
Uh-huh.
but only if he gets paid.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no. He told me that he would do it for free. If it's only on some podcast or show for an hour talk, he'll do it for free in that situation.
So
Yeah,
he
she
will
and-
not
and
come
it's
back
open-
unless
it's open for everyone except for us. She's not going to come on our channel anymore for some reason.
I
Yeah,
wonder what
Peter, I
happened.
can't imagine why. Okay,
Yeah,
so Peter,
I-
please start making sense about this new show that's coming on our channel. Go.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, because all atheists think the same, because I mean, there's no creationist who will tell you different. We all have our same dogma and our worldview. So we're going to see if that's actually true, and that's why we called it herding cats.
Mm-hmm.
Because it'll be like herding cats.
And the name of the show, Peter?
Herding cats.
Well, I hope your Richard Dawkins shrine is blue because mine is.
What about sparkling brain clogs?
You could get people
yeah,
like
that's something completely different, because and that's going to take a while, because we're going to do that in a collaboration with the laziest guy on YouTube called
Artemis Brain Sample.
Artemis Brain Sample.
I think he was in the chat, wasn't he?
Yeah, I did see him pop in the chat, but he's as lazy in the chat as he is in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another upcoming thing.
And speaking of Richard Carrier, he's coming back to Mind the Gap on October 1st. And the topic will be ancient science and scientists, and also we'll be bringing on Sidestrike. So catch us on Mind the Gap on that day.
Want to see that.
And we'll have a brand new host for that one. A woman called Karis.
That will be pretty much my my flagship, show.
You'll have to bring her onto our channel sometime, Peter. We'd like to meet her.
Yeah, she's great, actually.
She'd probably be, up to coming on your channel. I could ask her.
Okay. Well, we'll have to work that out in the near to distant future, but yeah.
And before I got so rudely interrupted by Karis explaining something that she asked me to explain, Sparkly Brain Clogs is going to be a collaboration between Sparkly, as in a sparkly invisible unicorn called Karis, Brain, as in Brain Sample, and Clogs, as in the guy who wears wooden shoes in his daily life because he comes from the Netherlands.
And a fucking fedora.
And yeah, and we're going to take on Creation Ministries International.
You and your fedora. Don't you ever wear a fedora on that show?
You guys are
the fusion branch of AIG.
Yep. We're going to basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a similar show. So we're going to do a creationist show.
Interesting. I've taken on 2 of their materials before. They did a.
Oh, you wait until we get our first episode up, because then you've got all new material to work on.
Oh, do I? I did their or actually, well, Paul sent me their little.
We're going to be the Trump creationists.
And then I did their 15 questions for evolutionists, which was their Doubting Darwin Day thing. What a hoot that was!
We're going to have better claims than they have.
Are you guys? I think we could collectively make up like better conspiracy theories.
Oh, probably. I mean, I was in that, in that subculture, so I could probably poet pretty
just
well.
like spread them around. Also, like, hey, did you guys hear? Actually, Trump is an Atlantean.
Karis is going to do the infomercials. We're going to have some sexy stuff. Well.
Oh man.
On my Twitter, at Jeweled Strokes, I've got the my tweet that talks about the October 1st show. If you guys want to, you can go over there, retweet that, try to get as many people onto that show as possible, because yes, Dr. Carrier is going to be definitely worth our time. He always makes it worth everybody's time who's listening to him, but we want to make it worth his time too. We want to return that favor. So
is that a euphemism?
Take it as any way you like.
I think it is jeweled strokes.
Yeah, it sounds. Jeweled strokes does sound dirty.
Well, it can be whatever you want it to be.
Karis is great in inventing names that can have multiple meanings.
Sometimes, if Mrs. Snarky's a little tired, she'll do some jeweled strokes for me, but.
A couple pearls here and there. Okay.
At least I don't get the bedazzler out.
Oh my God.
What?
I don't want to know what that is.
A bedazzler? What is this?
You don't know what a bedazzler is?
No.
It's like it was from like the 80s and 90s.
When you put like the little things on your pants.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
Little
yeah.
butterflies and flowers and stuff.
And,
Okay, I know.
so do we now talk about the British version of
I thought
that?
it was something dirtier. So.
Yes, there is something dirtier, the vajazzle.
Oh, that yeah.
What?
There's
The vajazzle.
The vajazzle. Basically,
Vajazzle, which
a woman gets basically a Brazilian
Oh.
and then decorates it with sparkly things, and
Yes.
it's vajazzled. Something I
yes,
have
Jackson, that's actually a thing.
I have never done this.
Poor
Yeah, I think
Jackson.
I'm gonna skip that.
I'm just like bleaching my brain right now. Things are under renovation at the moment. Oh,
Dazzling. Oh.
Well, that was
that
free.
sounds ridiculous.
We
It
appreciate
is
Is there dick dazzling?
probably.
You know
Yes,
who
but
we
it's
do need?
illegal
Oh
in Georgia.
gosh. Okay, not the same thing, but a long time ago, back in Seattle, I was flipping through channels late at night and got to the public access station. And there's this guy who I guess no one noticed because it was after midnight, was showing porn on like cable access, right? And at one point, like a couple of weeks later, again, I'm flipping through channels and I see one of my classmates from the Art Institute of Seattle, right? Getting his dick pierced.
Oh.
Yes. The next
I
day
can-
in class, I go up to him like, I saw you on TV last night. And he's like, yeah, I guess you did. Yeah. So
And those
old
guys with
memories.
the Jacob's ladders. Oh.
Kate, I can top that.
Can you?
During an election
Oh my god.
here in Holland, they went to the counting of the votes in the town that I was born and raised in, and people were actually counting the votes. So that was correct. What they didn't notice was that they had a projector with a immense screen behind it showing porn. So that was kind of nice to see my hometown represented that way. So we're counting the votes, and two lesbian women in the background were getting it on. That's
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think that really tops seeing a classmate getting his dick pierced on TV.
I don't know.
No, I mean
okay,
anymore,
okay.
like lesbian porn is fairly, it's kind of passe now.
Speak for yourself. But okay.
You're going to get Kate mad. You're going to get Kate mad
the
now.
concept of, not the act of, just the concept of.
I think you mean maybe normalized, not passe.
That's a better word for what I meant.
Interesting. All
Forgive
interesting
me.
thing.
Forgive me for my my terminology.
It'll be like a slap on the wrist.
My terminology went flaccid for a moment.
Actually, that'll be a paddling.
Oh. Forgive me, mother, for I have sinned.
Over here, Matt and Miss Snarky are getting ideas.
There was an
I'm
old song,
writing this
Paddling
down.
Madeline Home.
What?
I don't know. Something about Madeline being home. That's what I
Oh, no, I
heard.
There
heard
was an
RJ.
old song, Paddling
over-
Madeline Home.
I'm
and
just
it would
over
be
it in red.
Ah. I'm guessing the song had something to do with like a rowboat or a canoe, but boy, could it be
that was
taken
the nice,
another
that was in
way.
the innocent days of the 1920s when you could lynch black people and nobody complained.
Speaking of, I saw Black Klansman the other day. It was a pretty good movie. If you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out.
I've heard of its existence. I have not seen it
It's pretty
because
good.
it has no laser guns, spaceships, aliens, or robots. So,
Oh my
what?
Oh man, there are so few
Sci-fi.
movies I see anymore that are like sci-fi. I guess I don't know. I've seen before this. The last movie I saw was The Meg, and that movie was awful.
Well, yesterday, a friend of mine told me that I should watch Thor Ragnarok. Now, I've kind of burned out on superhero movies. Like I watched The Incredibles 2, I watched Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and Big Hero 6, and that's it. Like all the Marvel and DC stuff, I'm like, I enjoyed it, but now it's like a movie every 3-6 months, and I'm like, I can't. It's just too much
Well,
now.
don't worry. DC is probably on a downward slide towards non-existence with their record.
But Thor Ragnarok, it was okay, but it was like watching Krull. You ever see Krull? Because it's got a lot of awesome fight scenes. It's got a lot of kind of cool special effects and stuff and some great ideas. But it's like someone took all of these mini adventures and mashed them all together to try to make one movie. So it had essentially no plot. And that's kind of the way it felt watching Thor Ragnarok. I'm like, okay, so they threw him in this arena. And it's just like over and over and over. I was going, where's the plot here? It eventually found one, but it took for frickin' ever to get there.
So in other words, I'm not missing anything by not seeing the whole thing.
No, disagreement. I thought it was pretty all right.
I'm burnt out as well on most of the superhero movies.
Well, you know what, Matt? You think Star Trek is better than Star Wars?
Star Trek is better than Star Wars.
I don't need to last time on my channel.
You are so fired. Fired.
But anyway, no, the superhero movies, I used to love them when they were coming out like once a year. And I would sit in the theater and I'd wait for the end scene. And now I just pick and choose what movies I want to see. Like I saw Deadpool 2. I didn't stick around. I didn't care if there was an end scene.
There were lots of end scenes.
I didn't even care. I was like, a post-credit scene. I'm like, I don't care.
Deadpool 2 is okay. It didn't suck, but the first movie was so awesome that my expectations were definitely not met.
It's really hard to live up to Deadpool 1.
Yeah, it wasn't as good. It was a good movie, but it wasn't as good. And I don't care about the Avengers or the Justice League.
That's one of the things is like I was talking about spaceships, aliens, laser guns, and robots and all that shit. And I loved Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. But then apparently they ended up in the superhero movies. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm not watching
because
any
they're the same universe. They're all literally the same universe.
But it's so totally not the same kind of movie.
Well, they kind of made the first two Thor movies were very different from Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok was a lot more like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie than the first two were. And so, but yeah, they are pretty different. But as far as actual different universes, Deadpool and the X-Men movies are all in a separate universe because they're owned by FX, or at least they were. And so they have yet to cross with anything else.
So I'm waiting for my Phileas Fogg movie.
Yeah, I like when they have obscure comic book characters. I really enjoyed the first Ant-Man movie.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
But I thought it should be a standalone movie. There's no reason to bring Ant-Man back for anything else.
I thought it was really cool that because they had Ant-Man come out, and then they had they put him in Civil War.
I liked that.
I liked that too. I thought that was
I like
really
it
good.
when they integrate the different, characters that we see in other movies. I like that. I like it when they bring him into another movie. Like when I'm watching Green Arrow and Flash, I love that when they start going back and forth to each other's shows.
But then it gets to the point where if you haven't seen one of the movies, you can't watch the other one because they're all so intertwined.
Yeah.
It's like,
what's your point? That's part of the thrill of it all.
But like I said, I've burned out on superhero movies. That's one of the things where it's like when Guardians of the Galaxy, which I really loved and thought of it as space opera, not superheroes, when they started folding it into, what was it, the Avengers or whatever? I don't remember. And I was like, well, I don't want to see that because now it's all superheroes instead of spacemen.
Can I make a point about the Star Wars Star Trek thing?
No.
You're not allowed to. Your opinion is irrelevant.
Because I discussed this with Trey on our channel, Couch Bound Yetis. And if Star Wars had remained with hold on.
I have to warn you. This is part of the organisms. That's a DM group on Twitter.
Yes.
One of the people in the organisms is a guy named Paul Enns.
I understand.
I don't know if you're aware of him. Be careful what you say about Star
I'm
Wars.
going to say this.
Look at Kate.
All right.
If it had only remained Part 4, 5, and 6, Star Wars would be objectively better than Star Trek. But the prequels and the horrible sequels have sullied Star Trek so badly that I cannot consider it better than Star Trek anymore.
All right, I will
You did say Star Trek twice, but the thing is, okay, Star Wars will always be superior to Star Trek for one reason, because it has stick and throttle high speed attack fighters. Okay, Star Trek has none of that. You need dogfights, real dogfights. And I'm sorry, don't even bring up that what is it, the Delta Flyer or some shit. You still control it with typing, so it is not the same freaking thing.
Space?
I don't care. That's what makes the movies fun. I don't need realism. Cool. It's science fiction, not accurate science.
Matt, I will grant you the Phantom Menace. I'll grant you that one. Okay, we can overlook the Phantom Menace.
You would have to grant him that one.
And I'll grant you half of. No, fine. 3/4 of Attack of the Clones. All right.
That was what's funny is in another stream.
I won't let you talk badly about Revenge of the Sith, though.
Revenge of the Sith,
and you've still got Star Trek: The Motion Picture to live up to, pal.
Hey! I actually
not to mention the Voyage Home. The Voyage Home. Come on.
Here's something really funny, and it includes
whales
the
can
Apologia.
Communicate with aliens.
Apologia was in a stream with Godless Engineer and Caitlin Chloe. And the whole prequels came up, and Apologia said that he was brought in to fix the prequels. And I said, wait, that's fixed?
Oh, man. You know what? I was honest. I really did like Revenge of the Sith is my favorite of all the movies, all the Star Wars movies that have been produced so far. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite.
I think
it's very fast paced for a Star Wars movie, and it's like you're constantly getting plot development in that one, and yeah, I think it's really good. But I mean, of course, episode 7 was just episode 4 again. Episode 8 was
I still haven't seen it.
Well, after 7 and Rogue One, I decided Disney doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. I'm not watching it anymore. Rogue One was garbage. Rogue One was like watching somebody else play a video game. It was action scene after action scene with no character development whatsoever.
What are you talking about?
No character development at all.
I won't listen to this on my own channel.
By the time they were dead, I didn't care about any of them. Their deaths were meaningless. Meaningless.
That is one point. Rogue One actually didn't have any character development at all.
There were so many main characters in it.
There were a lot of characters, but they were one-dimensional. They were not good characters.
I mean, to be fair, there's a whole genre of people watching other people play video games on YouTube. Look at League of Legends.
You ever heard of being a voyeur? Come on.
I was going to say, I have a gaming
watch other people playing video games. I don't.
And that's why our relationship will never be where it's supposed to be.
I'd rather play a video game than watch someone else do it. That's like just waiting for my turn.
Yeah, understandable. Can't blame you.
I mean, the only reason to watch someone else play a video game is if I'm trying to decide whether or not to buy it.
I mean, I enjoyed watching, when I was younger, I loved watching Markiplier play games. Like, he played all the Five Nights at Freddy's games, and that was pretty great.
See, I think people watch my gaming channel, the few that do.
Who are you again?
Because I'm absolutely
He's
awful.
The guy who can't control a goat. And
I can't.
Hanging a goat off of a fairground attraction.
What?
I mean,
are you playing Goat Simulator?
I did, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And my goat got stuck in a
and he hung the goat. He literally hung it. We watched 5 minutes of a goat hanging, stuck with his head in
what the frick is
Ferris wheel.
this?
It was very funny.
Goat Simulator, dude.
It's a lot better than fire can wrestling.
Goat Simulator?
I've never played that.
Yes, you simulate a goat. Cool.
And the goat can do all kinds of stuff.
Jackson, what was your first thought when they said Goat Simulator? Honestly,
like I just imagine them like controlling a single little freaking goat.
Yes.
Well, I said goat simulator to Artemis Brain Sample. He had sexual fantasies for about an hour.
What?
What?
Oh my god, Jackson,
You know what? He might have been the one you were thinking of from Oklahoma. That's
you seriously haven't.
I
I'm just
think this
kidding.
was the Muslim version of the goat simulator.
Oh, can't
You
say that.
seriously haven't heard of Goat Simulator?
No, I haven't. I honestly,
Really?
this is the first
Isn't
I'm
it
hearing
like
of it.
Sim City with goats or something?
No.
That's so
No,
ridiculous.
Just one
I
goat.
vaguely remember someone telling me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking something else. But I thought for sure it was like The Sims with goats.
It's a goat, and it's got like a long
Uh-huh.
tongue thingy, and sometimes a jetpack, and you like stick to things and not stuff over.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
It's
game
weird.
that was built because they were trying to build one game and they realized that the game they built was just utter trash. And so, but the glitches in the game were great. And so they just built the game completely around the glitches and replaced the main character with a goat.
That's hilarious.
Well,
It is hilarious, and that's why people adore it. And it's weird. It's just you'll have to play it at least once. It's weird.
I guess I have never even heard of such things, but I played like I really don't play a whole lot of like games that aren't like, you know, buy it for PS3 or whatever or PC. A lot, really. I've been playing a lot of what is it, the Jurassic World Evolution game. That game is pretty fun. You haven't tried it, you guys check it out.
You can get it as
Eve
an
and
app on your phone. They have a free app of Goat Simulator, I think, don't they, GI?
Oh
They
my
used
God.
to. I don't think they do anymore.
I'm a fan of Eve and Ark.
I have Ark. I haven't played it on a stream yet.
I've heard
I
of it,
have Ark.
but I've never played it.
no, that one's completely unfamiliar to me. Well, I have a gaming channel that I almost never use because, well, I tried it and I just could not get into being like hosting a game. But in about 4 days, I think it's actually closer to 3 now. It comes out on the 20th. Is Star Control Origins, and if I'm going to play any game like on a channel, it'll be that. Because man, Star Control 2 was amazing, and the people who made, I mean, it came out in the 90s, so the people who made Star Control Origins were like, we love that game. We're going to give it a facelift for today and have a whole new adventure, and it looks awesome. I got to play the like the chapter 1 beta, and it's really cool. So I cannot wait. Just a couple of days. Looking forward to it. Of
There's
course,
some discussion in the side chat right now regarding No Man's Sky.
I heard it was a scam. Was it
No,
not a scam?
at the beginning, they released it, in my opinion, way too early. They didn't do what's become the usual early access. They just released it, and so the beginning version didn't have a lot of the features that were promised. But over the past year and a half or so, 2 years, they've come out with a lot of updates that brought it up to the standard that everybody was expecting.
Because wasn't it like the guy who was hawking it for a while before it came? He like disappeared as soon as it came out or whatever.
Because it was such it was such a flop at the beginning.
was.
Because everyone was pissed, and they basically didn't play it. They were like, I don't know, like 1,500 people at any given time, which is really low for a game like that. Any given time, there were maybe 1,500 people playing it. So it was a disaster when it was first released. But
I mean, I
since
did
then-
buy it. Maybe I should load it back up sometime, but wow. The controls were a pain in the ass. They don't let you use a joystick. You can only use a mouse, and everything seemed to be like reversed, and
I don't
then
know.
you
I play on
couldn't fly low
PS4.
enough, and it was terrible.
I'm
play
pretty
on,
sure they have
PlayStation,
gamepad.
so-
Oh,
I'm
I don't
pretty-
want to use a gamepad.
Or I'm pretty
Fuck
sure they've made it
gamepads.
to where you can
I'm
use.
talking a real joystick. You're a
Oh my
flight
gosh.
stick.
Jesus,
Holy shit.
how old is that?
Oh, pretty old, but it still works. I mean, I was playing Elite Dangerous with this, so
Yeah, that's what he
Right.
said.
It says Top Gun on it.
Yeah.
Damn.
yeah, it's a Thrustmaster. Uh-huh.
Thrustmaster.
But
Okay.
and it's improved a lot since then. I don't really play.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really play games all that much
Huh.
these days. But
I'll have to take your
sometimes
word
I
for
do.
it. I really,
Well,
I mean, I kind of saw like some things about it, but I was like, meh. I rarely ever buy anything like
Mhm.
when it first comes out. But
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about it, but then I saw everyone was like this is trash. And so I was like, yeah, no. I do have to say, though, EA's Battlefront was a scam. Convince me otherwise.
Oh, it definitely was.
I've been playing a lot of VR lately, mostly Spark, which is a lot of fun. It's like this sort of dodgeball game that looks like something out of Tron. A lot of fun. But there's also Beat Saber, which is badass because it's like Dance Dance Revolution with lightsabers. And no, seriously, it's really cool. You're like slicing at these boxes that are coming at you. It's really aerobic. You'll be drenched in your own filth after about 15 minutes. But there's a level editor. Now, most of the songs it came with are like EBM, techno, and all of that stuff. But I'm making a level out of yakety sax, the Benny Hill theme.
Oh, speaking of VR, has anybody in here or in the side chat played Skyrim, the Skyrim version or the VR version?
I've only played regular Skyrim for PS3. But I think that would be kind of cool because it's like, I mean, you know, you're walking around first person, then like you get like attacked by something from behind. You're like, holy crap!
Yes.
I'd rather play Fallout 4 than Skyrim, personally.
Well, I just love Bethesda.
Oh yeah, they're pretty good. Much better than EA cough. But
someone holds a grudge.
You know what? I got Battlefront. I got the EA Battlefront. It was pretty expensive for a game. And it was absolute trash because it's like you have to keep buying things, and it's also it only has like 4 maps, or at least it did when it first started. Then they got like 6, but it's not the scale. Or for instance, you can play like with other people, and it's on a fairly large scale, but you can't do like the old where it's just you versus computer on a large scale. It's like you and 3 others versus 4, and that sucks.
None of it plays like the old Battlefront games.
No, it doesn't at all. No,
the old Battlefront games really felt like you were in those Star Wars battles.
Yeah,
but the new ones, they're just they're awful. I couldn't agree more. They're just ugh.
Who here plays Civ?
Savannah does. She likes Civ.
I haven't played Civ in a long time.
I have Civ 6, so I like it.
One thing I've noticed about Star Wars games is you can find stuff that takes place after, or you can find stuff that takes place during the prequel times, right? If it's like a role-playing game kind of thing, like Knights of the Old Republic, that sort of thing. Yeah. But you cannot find anything other than action games set during the Rebellion. And I think the reason why, because you can't get like a Rebellion-based RPG, is because there's only a couple of people using lightsabers. They figure no one will play a Star Wars game if your character can't have a lightsaber. And I think that's really obnoxious. I would love to play as like a Wedge Antilles type of character who's going through the universe, through the galaxy, like having adventures and trying to act against the Empire in some fashion.
Yeah, about the closest I can think of that you get to that is Empire at War, where you're in essence like a general overlooking a battlefield, and you can go from planet to planet fighting. You know, the war between, you could be Imperial or Rebels, or with the mod you could be Confederacy or Republic, but that's as close as it gets, really.
Yeah, I mean, I want seriously an RPG with like D&D style stats and characters where you're interacting with them and answering questions and all of that stuff. I mean, picture Mass Effect, but set during the Rebellion and, you know, Star Wars universe, and not Mass Effect, but I'm talking that sort of game. They'll never do it. It's like they just, because you can't have a lightsaber. I'm sure that's why.
Yeah, because everybody had a lightsaber, or you could give everybody a lightsaber in Knights of the Old Republic. Like, and by the end, I mean, because by the end everyone was a Jedi, you had essentially reformed like the Jedi Council or whatever. And so they all had lightsabers, which is kind of interesting because they're such a disparate group of people. But I think that was number 2. That was Knights of the Old Republic 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a really good game. Oh, man. It was so good.
Both of those were really good.
Yeah, they were. They were both really good. I enjoyed the heck out of both of them. But now they're gone. They've left us. And now we're left with EA's Battlefront. I have not played 2. Have no interest in playing 2. So Not doing it again.
I've heard
Anyone
it's
play
worse.
Eve?
Nope.
No,
Nope.
Eve
Haven't heard of that
guys?
Karos, is that the sci-fi game with the sexy pilot in it?
You're basically a ship, but Eve is based in outer space.
It's
Big
like a
ship battles.
strategy game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. A strategy RPG, yeah, ship shooter game.
Huh. Strategy, RPG, ship shooter.
There's a lot of.
Are you like a living ship, like Herbie? You know, but a ship. So
No,
like
you're a
Moya?
captain.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, I've never played the game, but what I've heard about it, I think it's just this is the ship you're commanding. Yes?
no,
Yeah,
To the
maybe.
people
and in
who played
these-
it?
Yes, and these huge battles that happen, there can be, thousands of people in them. And every ship in there is a person taking part in this battle. It can get pretty epic.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, let's see. Does anyone else have anything interesting coming up? Iwan, Miss Snarky? Anybody?
I don't know if it's interesting, but I'm going to be reading weird questions from Quora. And I also did a video recently that was an answers questions to another video on Wonder Lady's channel. She asked wonderful questions.
Woo, Wonder Lady. Woo.
Wonder Lady is in the chat.
Hey, Wonder Lady.
And she asked questions of theists and atheists and everybody, really. And they're awesome questions.
Well, that's one thing I haven't seen in quite a while is like a questions for atheists video from theists, because those are a lot of fun to respond to, but apparently they just don't do that anymore. You used to find them a lot like 5 years ago, but
Yeah,
and when you do find them now, when you do find them now, it's just like text and they're not speaking. So
yeah.
There was an Islamic one that was circulating for a while, and I think a number of YouTubers did a response to that, like Rationality Rules and Professor Stick, I think. But yeah, which is kind of interesting because I think people have been saying like the fact that Islamic channels are even taking notice of atheists is kind of a big thing.
It is. I like that. Wonder Lady is an atheist, but she asks questions of atheist and theist, and just to kind of get the conversations going. And I love doing responses to it.
I was part of the questions for theists or questions theists can't answer on what was it for the non sequitur show, I think, where a whole bunch of us asked questions. And there were a number of responses from theists, like what's his name? The guy who throws tantrums.
I know who you're talking about.
Dean Esme. There we go.
I know who you're talking about.
Yes,
The problem is he's changed his name a bunch of times if it's the same guy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's him. But he was like going through them. He's like, oh, what stupid questions. Oh, they're so terrible. Oh, I hate atheists. And then he gets to mine. He's like, not a terrible question, but they're always so concerned with creationists. And I was like, I can't offend anyone, evidently. I was like, okay.
You just look too sweet and nice.
Jackson, you said something new, but can it something that just recently happened? Does that qualify as well?
Sure, go ahead.
So in that case, she's in the side chat, Wonder Lady. She recently did a very good talk with another great member of the community, Aptivist the Atheist, who's also in the side chat.
Yes.
So I'm going to grab a link because neither of those have a wrench. So I'll throw in a wrench. So after we're done, people, not now, after we're done, you can go look there and watch that.
Oh, and I don't know how go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I was just going to say, speaking of being done, I am going to have to get off of here because I have to go to work in the morning. But this has been a lot of fun.
Yes. What are you talking about? That sounds like the worst. I do also have school at 9, unfortunately.
But I've been getting to sleep at like 2 a.m. the last couple of nights and awakened at the ass crack of dawn by a very overzealous kitty. And so I'm actually like earlier before we started talking about like Star Wars and shit, I was sort of fading. I actually had my eyes closed a couple of times,
I
but it
saw
got
that.
vehement. So I was, yeah.
Falling asleep on my channel.
Well, I'm
Matt-
sorry. I
I'm not
like I
sure
said,
how
I've been getting like 3 to 5 hours of sleep for like the last
We
3 to 5
understand.
days. So,
And we understand. You just hate us. We got it.
Now,
We
let
got it.
me
well,
just
there's
say
that too.
that Jackson, I've really enjoyed being on your channel tonight, and for Kate, Star Trek's better.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Oh,
I have to
coward.
go as well.
All right. Bye, Miss Snarky.
Thank you, Jackson, for having us on. Y'all have a
Yep.
good night. Bye.
All right, you too.
Bye, Miss
Wait.
Snarky.
Yeah, no. Now that we're still on the stream, we actually have the last words. So Star Wars is better, clearly.
Yes,
Um,
yes, it is. But
I forgot.
I don't know how I forgot to mention this earlier, but there is a show that I'm hoping to start on my own channel on YouTube. And I don't yet have a title for it yet. It's still in the works, but it will basically be me reading out very, very poorly written erotica.
Okay.
Just for
Interesting.
fun. Yes.
Which when once read out will no longer be poorly written.
No, it's very poorly written.
You
I
should
had
call
some-
it 50 Shades of You Gotta Be Kidding Me.
Yes. But I was reading through some really bad erotica probably a couple weeks ago, and just reading it is a cringe fest. Like, oh my god, who actually thought it was a good idea to publish this?
And a little fun fact: Karis was DMing me what she was reading at the moment,
Oh no.
and then at some point put part of that in the wrong DM group.
Oh my.
So
Am I the only one who hears DM and thinks Dungeon Master?
No.
Although Peter probably hears that and thinks something else.
So,
Anyway.
I'm just thinking of Twitter when I hear DM. Am
so
I
I'm hoping to do
that,
that.
I'm
that
sure.
boring? I mean,
No, I said she said Dungeon Master.
It's
Yeah,
in the
as in
works. It is-
D&D.
Yeah.
Are none of you geeky enough to have played role-playing games? Like,
Hey,
Savannah has, but I've never played it.
dice-hacking RPGs. None of you have played those.
I said
Roll-
that I understand.
Kate. Kate, role playing is part of my real life. It's not a game.
Gross.
So
Yes, but that still misses the point.
yeah, see, that's what I meant. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. I don't
But-
game. I'm
well,
old. I'm
okay.
56.
See, now
I
I'm
don't
wondering
game.
why I know you.
Welcome to my world, Kate.
Why do we know Peter?
Yes. Why does anyone want to know me?
Oh,
You're pretty
Something
alright.
that I wonder at times.
You're pretty alright. So actually, we also have there's someone who wants to join. So toss them a link and we'll see if they come on. But,
I think I know who it is.
is it not?
I've
you?
never. I don't think I ever met the
it
guy
is.
before.
Really?
I don't think I ever met him. No,
Oh,
I think this is my first time. But RJ's also been fairly quiet over there.
That's true.
well, we
He's
started
got
talking
himself
about
muted.
games.
He does. What could RJ be doing?
Ignoring
he
our talk.
also. Did we talk about it earlier? How he had RJ, tell us. Did you mention your debate with Hovland much?
He did.
You did?
A little bit earlier in the thing, and then I realized how ancient I appear in the fact that I'm
That's
not
right. Yeah,
familiar with the
RJ.
latest video games.
That's right. If
Meh.
you guys haven't seen it, go watch RJ's debate with Hovland because he destroyed Hovland as
Yeah. So
numerous other people.
you have to put an emphasis on this because it is not easy to beat Hovind in a debate structure, and RJ just nailed him in every single segment. And then in the Q&A, Hovind made the mistake to opt that both would answer the questions that were given from the audience, and yeah, it was a bad day for Kent Hovind.
He was
Let's
testy
keep
by
it at
the
that.
end of it. He called me the altar boy of atheism, and I said, "No,
Yeah, so-
I'll plead guilty to the altar boy of reason. Yeah, I'll do that."
Okay,
Yeah.
one thing we need to point out. You pointed it out in the actual video. No, you pointed it out later. He forgot to end with his usual preaching that we all should be saved. RJ had him thrown off that much
Yeah.
that he completely forgot his own God.
Even with the debate with Aaron Ra, Kent didn't forget his shtick. So he
Nope.
had his PowerPoint cells, and he ends with his bring people to Jesus. He's on his game. I short-circuited him completely. He never used any. Yeah, jump in.
I was going to ask, did he start going, one day you're going to die?
No, he didn't. He didn't get to that. I completely derailed him. And I was expecting, I was anticipating either form, depending on which one of us went first, but he made the disastrous mistake of inviting me to go first.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
and you
I would-
just
before
bulldozed
this
him.
happened-
Summarize
Before
my
this
12 minutes.
I
And
think before this happened, I would have said that no one could beat Hovind in a debate because he just is that good at doing debates. I have to
Not anymore.
adjust. I have to adjust because he got beaten.
I mean, and that's why he always goes with the structured debate like that, is so he knows he doesn't have to answer any points.
I was actually going to say that's actually
see,
something
what
that
I hit him immediately is the fact that I had nailed him on the Harun Yahya stuff from one of his recent videos, so I didn't have to guess how he had. Oh yeah, I'm not kidding on this. He had brought up I almost didn't watch it. It was a debate that or of one of his lectures on Facus opteryx, and I knew all of the content in advance. I know the literature. He's going to bring up Alan Fiducia. He's going to bring up Archaeoraptor. He's going to bring up the Richard Richard Brush quote. All of it. I knew all of the material. I know the stuff. So there was no surprises. But then I thought, Archaeoraptor, is he going to bring up Microraptor? He probably wouldn't, because that's in this the science data, and he doesn't read the science data. So I decided to watch the damn thing. And when he got to the Alan Fiducia part on Archaeoraptor, I began to wonder where he was getting it from. And I did text search. I realized that he was copying it from somebody else commenting on Fiducia. It wasn't from a Fiducia article. And I started plugging in the text, and immediately, Harun Yahya, a 2003 post. And so then I downloaded it and backed the video up, and line by line, paragraph by paragraph, point by point, the entire PowerPoint was nicked from Harun Yahya. Verbatim. And the fact is that it's wrong, because it's not 2002. So in my comments on it, I made a point of having links to the Harun Yahya post, to Kent Hovind, to the Alan Fiducia paper. Yeah, jump in, Tiamaki.
I was going to say, we're talking about the same Harun Yahya, Adnan Oktar from Turkey, the Muslim creationist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know he's in jail?
Yeah, so here we have Pentecostal evangelical
Yeah, I heard about that.
creationists copying from Islamic creationists.
And they both copy from the pagan Aristotle.
Both of them are bottom feeders. Oh, that's another thing that pissed him off. I called Kent Hovind a bottom feeder. But he is.
Repeatedly.
He's not a fact claimant. He ferrets stuff out of other creationists, and of course I know exactly what he does. And then so I had him nailed at all points, and I think I was handling the Q&A better on stuff. I know more about baraminology than he does. I was explaining creationist baraminology to a creationist.
Oh, I mean, we did that to freaking Orange. We did that to Orange. You said which is a hollow baram, and he's like, a what?
What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that did happen.
Yeah,
but yeah,
Kent finally says, I don't use a lot of big words, and I should have said, no one is ever going to accuse you of that, Kent.
I mean, it's so categorically wrong to say Archaeopteryx was a hoax. I mean, and even if it were, you still have to contend with the now over a dozen other dino
Oh
bird
yeah,
fossils
that's
we
where I really
Jackson.
nailed him.
But Jackson, that doesn't prove it came from a rock.
Exactly. Doesn't prove soup came from a rock.
Yeah.
I-
Off
You know
on a
what?
lot of his little tropes. He tried every once in a while to kind of get back on game, but I wouldn't let him get back on game. And so he was completely thrown off. But the thing he did with Archaeopteryx was so pathetically lame. To repeat that old charge that Archaeopteryx was a hoax, which was put out by Lee Spetner and a company back in Fred Hoyle back in the 1980s. It was blown to smithereens in the 1980s. So much so, major creationist regards it as a false argument. That none of them claim that Archaeopteryx is a hoax. So
AIG is
Tim
totally
is
against
repeating
that.
this chestnut that's rotten and rancid.
AIG is of the opinion that it's a 100% bird with the teeth.
Oh yeah, that's actually an interesting dichotomy because pandas and people took the atypical view. They said it was just a dinosaur. But almost all the other creationists regard it as a bird. And of course, Alan Fiducia, if you're familiar with him, he's the evolutionist who's the poster child that they always go to. He's one of the few remaining people that doesn't like the bird dinosaur model.
Oh, and
he's gotten more and more out of touch with stuff. He's the Fred Hoyle of bird evolution. That's how I described him in Slam Dunk. By the way, all of you who don't have Slam Dunk, book plug, please buy.
Yeah, exactly. Go buy it. We were sent. RJ and I were sent an article last week. Who it was the Eld, I think. He sent us an article that was saying because now creationists believe not just Archaeopteryx and these other bird dinosaurs are all birds. No, now Velociraptor and Oviraptors and they include the group containing like Australiamimus, the ornithomimids. I think they included that also. It's like suddenly all these groups of dinosaurs that have feathers are now all birds, even though many of them look nothing like. I mean, they have very little in common with birds. But we now also have the herbivorous dinosaurs, which are not closely related to birds. Some of whom also we know have feathers, like Psittacosaurus and Colindodromius. So. Yeah. It's like, were they birds also?
Well, and it shouldn't surprise us. If you get my book, you'll get all the technical literature on this, gang. They've done a spectacular job over the last really 5 years working out the developmental biology of how feathers evolve. So the idea that these things would be popping up in a variety of dinosaur lineages is not at all surprising developmentally. Oh, Evolution Slam Dunk. How the reptile mammal transition proves macroevolution and how anti-evolutionists ignore it. Jane Amazon and all ebook formats.
Found it.
It's a really good book. It's great. I would recommend it.
I'm very proud of it.
You don't have a hardcover edition. Damn it.
But just paperback.
I'll get it. And I'll get it.
If I can ever wrestle up a regular publisher, I'd like to do a second edition with illustrations. That's the one thing that Christine Janis, the paleontologist, said that it needed, and I was going, duh. I just didn't have the rights to get all of this crap, so I was doing the best I could. But the thing is, the reptile mammal transition is the killer app. It is spectacular macroevolution, and it's not widely known. Everybody goes for the dinosaurs and the whale fossils and Australopithecines that are perfectly nice, but they're not nearly as bulletproof as the reptile mammal transition is. And all anti-evolutionists, without exception, crash and burn on it, and you won't have to guess at it because I've surveyed them all in the book.
Well, remember, RJ, that even creationists accept that whales are descended from terrestrial mammals now.
Kurt Wise and stuff. There's a lot of the squeaky sound that you may be hearing if you listen. Is the goalpost moving of an awful lot of creationism stuff. You don't find it so much with anti-evolution. The intelligent design gang, they're actually more set in concrete because they got a smaller turf to defend. But the young Earth creationists have got a lot of problems going on. And I brought it up in the evolution hours and that a lot because there's two bottlenecks with the flood, not one. And they have to account for all the fossil record that has to have emerged in less than 1,700 years after the creation event. And then those same created kinds have to proliferate after they scamper off of the ark to produce all the diversity that we see now. And that also would have to take place in less than 1,600 years, because people are bumping into giraffes and stuff, by the time we're getting down into cultured times. So they've got two horrifying bottlenecks to deal with, because they can't have 8,000 species, 8,000 kinds on the ark. There ain't enough room. So they're trying to keep it down to like 1,500 or so, which is the version that's at the Ark Park, the Ark Encounter. But then they've got all of that extra stuff to deal with. And so they're going to have to wangle around and try to figure out how to mutate stuff. So they got these rapid macroevolutionary speciation events, but they don't want to admit that speciation can happen. So they're in a mess.
Yeah. By the way, was that profile pic Kitty?
Yes, it was. This is Enzo down here. He decided to finally come in after everyone else went to sleep. He sell out.
By the way, Jackson, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Speaking of which, I should probably take off, so I'll catch you evil geniuses later.
Okay, well, thanks for coming, Kate.
Also, Kate,
have fun.
Star Wars forever.
Bye.
What were you saying?
Star Trek and Doctor Who.
I'm sorry, the Omaki, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'd like to say it's nice to meet you, and I love your work very much.
Oh, well, thank you. I do try.
and also, I just have one complaint. Your intro's a bit long.
No.
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic intro. It's just a bit long.
Really, long is this is the first time I've heard someone say that it's long.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it.
A lot of people,
it's spiffy, and I wait for the end where it goes. I love that part.
The only complaint I've been hearing from people in the comments is they're like, it's too loud. So I've turned it down a little bit. I thought it was fine, but I turned it down a little bit for them, and so I've been doing that in my videos.
Yeah, I would liken it to. There's a YouTube channel I watch called History Buffs.
Although the guy who made it is in the chat.
I have to say, this is the first time someone is telling me my work isn't good. That's absolutely a first.
I like it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm not. I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said.
No, yeah. We know.
It's like how I was going to say in History Buffs that I watch on YouTube.
Okay.
They used to
have you sat through all 4 hours of Gone with the Wind?
Oh yes, I love that movie.
Okay, well then you're okay to judge on length. Okay.
So you're History Buffs.
Oh yeah, so yeah, they used to have a fantastic intro on History Buffs. It was a good minute long. It's just that the creator thought it was a bit excessive. He shortened it, but that aside, it was still an impressive intro. That's what I was saying with your intro. It's an impressive intro. It's just I do have to skip it because I do want to hear what you got to say. I want to jump right in.
Well, we tend to do that in my videos. Like I said at the very beginning, I've had to slow down a bit because school and work are overwhelming sometimes, and that leaves almost no room for YouTube things. This is like, I planned this chat for earlier this week because I had to get my homework done and stuff. And so now we're all talking.
Yeah,
we're all here.
You do more sophisticated stuff than I do, Jackson, because you put in the visuals and the graphics and all of that. I'm just a talking head on my evolution hours.
Yeah, I work at a steel factory. I haven't been able to make a YouTube video in a few months now. 2 months, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is a shit job.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm both happy and miserable because I don't have enough money to live on, but I'm squeaking by, scrape. But I gotta say that compared to all the years I worked doing stuff, inventory and building sheds and blah, blah, blah over the years and computer programming that I did for other people to do their agendas, I love what I'm doing now. I like doing the research. I love nailing the creationist. I love working on the books and finding out stuff and defending the science and writing the novels and all the rest. And I may not be able to make it financially, but while I'm doing it, I'm a happy camper when I'm doing the work.
That's good.
Yes, it is really fun. I do enjoy doing it for the book. It's pretty great getting to go through, finding out that AJ Monty White was ripping off of Jerry Bergman, who was in turn ripping off of Jonathan Sarfati.
Yeah, the daisy chains. I loved it. I always want to and make a point of highlighting all of that in the text, because we want to remind these daisy chains things. So when you put it into a summary like that, so-and-so copying so-and-so copying so-and-so, and that's exactly what I did with Kent Hovind, where I have Kent Hovind copying Harun Yahya, riffing off of Alan Fiducia without reading all the criticism of Alan Fiducia. So this daisy chain of ignorance get magnified after all of this time. And excuse me, this is where I really nail him. It's 2018. Nobody has an excuse for ignorance. Yeah. Everybody has access to the primary sources. If I can find it, anybody can find it.
Yeah, it's like, well, that was one thing that really annoyed me once, was someone was saying that they didn't believe that, they were like, how could you possibly blame Christianity for the Holocaust? Like, or say that it had even any complicity in it. And it's like, we have access to all this art from the Middle Ages depicting Jews as child sacrificers. We have all the records of mass pogroms that happened over the centuries. Yeah. And it's like, so this built up in Lutheran Catholic Germany.
Martin Luther. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I say that Christianity had some complicity with the Holocaust, I didn't just pull that out of my ass the same way that they pull out atheism, that Nazi Germany was an atheist state. No. I bring out the sources. You know, there's the way they were treated, the way Jews were treated in England and Germany and Spain and Austria and Russia. I mean,
it's definitely. Since
there's a wonderful book.
You know,
I mean, Martin Luther, the father of Protestant Christianity, even wrote a book called On the Jews and Their Lies. Yeah. So
well, you know why he did that?
We have access
because
to
this. The Jews didn't convert. He was figuring that once they got the Reformation in play, that the Catholic Church would disappear and all the Jews would see how true Christianity is, and they were annoyingly staying Jews. That's when he went ballistic and wrote his book, which is towards the tail end of his life on that. The Spanish Inquisition, Henry Kamen has it's an older book, but God, it's good, on a revisionist view of the Spanish Inquisition. And the revisionism part is just that he was working out exactly how many people actually died. It was a lot of people had overestimated the amount. So it's like about 3,000 people in Spanish Inquisition over a couple hundred years. But it's a devastating analysis. It's got some of the creepiest things about how the endemic anti-Semitism of the Inquisition, how inefficient and weird it was. My favorite weird incident has to do with the fact that you had to burn the heretic. And in one case, this guy had been, he was being accused of heresy, and they were retroactively accusing his mother of heresy. She had already died in the meantime, unfortunately. Well, when they convicted her, they went out and dug up her bones so they could be burnt. Because that's the rule.
Yeah, so
and you're going, what?
Yeah, that's so back to the point you were making, like, wait, when we say that, you know, when we say that we have a point about something, and they're complaining that we don't have any evidence about that, it's like, you have access to this evidence too. Go look for it.
Oh, the worst part of it is I get creationists who come on my channel and just leave little trollish comments that say, "There's no evidence of this," and I'm like, "Did you even?" My script descriptions are packed full of citations, except for, of course, long video talks like this.
Yeah, but I keep pushing you on that.
I mean, even in my talks I've done with creationists, like if you look at my talk with a bit of orange, is it a bit of orange, or it might have been Standing for Truth, one of those.
Standing for Truth.
Interchangeable.
Yeah, I think I'll put a whole bunch of links in the description, you know, talking about, you know, things that we had touched upon. But yeah, a video when I did my video, oh frick, what was it? The one Paleontology. When I did my video on paleontology.
Prothero?
No, paleontology was for anyone who doesn't know, paleontology is the study of these little paleomorphs, which are these little microfossils that don't fit into things that aren't like dinoflagellate shells or things like that, like other parts, like the worm
plankton
jaws,
corpses.
Things like that. Yeah. So if it's not a plankton corpse, pretty much, then it's a paleomorph. So I did a video on that. The number of sources I had that I had looked at for this video, I couldn't fit them all in the description. So I had to put like the rest of them in a comment and then pin that. That's how many sources I looked at.
Also, more importantly, those sources, that is the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the data field. And we have the advantage that we can link directly to it in all of my evolution. Have you seen my evolution hours, Theomaki?
I've heard of them, but I haven't watched them because I've.
Well, every Wednesday, Nathan Lentz, who has been having jousts with intelligent designers, he's going to be on this next Wednesday. And the thing is that I'm also analyzing a creationist book that I was asked to. So I'm going through source by source and doing a full press source analysis of it each week, where I'm showing how they're manipulating the things. And the point is that when I can find sources that anybody can link to full text, I put those in the source description so everybody can do follow-up. Don't take my word for it. You can do your own follow-up, man.
Yes.
And that's the immense power, because I guarantee you, and Kent Hovind, my debate with Kent Hovind demonstrated this. Source methods is a game they cannot play at all. And the more we force that game to be played, we win, they lose.
Yeah, that's what I always like. Here's the thing. I like citations. Whenever I read a book, I always go straight to the source material. You know, like if I'm reading a book about history,
That's what Arnie does.
Yeah, I go straight to the sources and I look for what did Suetonius or who did these people write. You know, and I think that needs to be a new model. Make fact checking sexy again. You know, we have to get people back into
bingo.
I am so
and reporters.
Reporters
need to ask those questions.
Yes, because I am thoroughly annoyed having discussions with people. It's like, you know how this whole free speech thing on YouTube's been going on, and how you get these intellectual.
No one should have free speech.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go back. Let's go back to Stalinism.
Exactly.
Honestly,
hey, it solves all the problems, doesn't it?
Anyways, like I was saying, when it comes to this whole free speech thing, suddenly nobody cares about fact checking these free speech martyrs. You know, and it's like, you know, whenever I hear about these news stories about, oh, this guy Ben Shapiro, he's such a martyr for free speech. Oh, he's just saying it as it is. He's fighting facts over feelings, and it's like, fact check this guy. I fact checked him, and immediately he's just a religious conservative fraud. You know, I mean, this idiot, and I mean idiot. Like, I checked his book. He wrote a book called Bullies, and he literally said in one sentence, if the United States is not founded on Judeo-Christian values, then what was it founded on? And I thought to myself, you're a Harvard University graduate. Did you at no point heard the words the Enlightenment? You know?
Probably not. You get a lot of very brilliant people. One of the Jackson and I both take target practice periodically with Dinesh D'Souza, who is one of the most scurrilous little trolls. I've got quite a few postings on my YouTube channel, in fact, about him. That's where I was found out about the Henry Kamen book, that Dinesh D'Souza had the temerity to claim the Spanish Inquisition wasn't really so bad, and his one and only source was Henry Kamen's book. That when I read it, I discovered that Henry Kamen had not said what Dinesh claimed he said.
Yeah, and also, Dinesh D'Souza, he also, I mean, this guy's claimed that the genocide against Native Americans wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it's awful, and he is a methodologically, he and Kent Hovind are separated at birth. That they're addicted to secondary sources that they don't fact check. They have an extremely limited data field. They don't really think through what they think happened. They just have a penumbra of dogma that they want to be true. They never really have any standards for changing their mind.
Is it Charis or Charis?
It's Charis.
Charis. It's Greek, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great to see you. How have you been?
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, Charis, thanks for coming on and sharing in the insanity with us.
Thank you.
And your dulcet tones. You could read the phone directory and it would be pornography.
Well, RJ, if I ever get that idea for my channel off the ground, I could be reading more than a phone book.
And then the rubbing started.
Oh, man. At any rate, well, see you later, Charis. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night, Charis.
But yeah, what was I going to say? So yeah, when it comes to fact checking, it's absolutely paramount. You know, I think one of the best examples of just how thorough people can be is Christopher Hitchens was debating Dinesh D'Souza, and at one point he actually made reference to his book. Because you ever notice how apologists, when they reference Christopher's book in the debates, like with his debate with Frank Turek, he quoted something out of context, and he was like saying, "No, actually, I was just referring to Laplace." And then he like went straight to the page, read it, and he's like, "Exactly, Laplace." So there was a debate between D'Souza and Hitchens where Christopher just straight up said, "Look, the reason you're a Christian, Dinesh, is because you were born on your family was born on the only part that the Portuguese took over in India." You know, that's literally and he's like, that explains the whole thing. You know, and then Dinesh tried to skew it into, oh well, the Christians were egalitarian and Hinduism has its evil caste system, and it's like, and also let me just say this, just it's off topic, but Christians had a caste system. We called it the feudal system. There.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that stemmed back from the Roman Empire. One of the things that I pointed out, you might find my chapter in the old tip, because the Bible tells me so, rather relevant on all of this. But one of the things that I discovered with Diocletian, there were a century or so, I guess, after Diocletian, there was a Christian, a Roman general of some type, and he converted to Christianity, and all of his slaves freed and all that kind of stuff, and it sounded really nice. And you get that popping up in some of the religious things about how this anti-slavery, the Christians. But I checked the dates. This was after Diocletian. Diocletian made it illegal for people who were employed to quit their jobs without their employer's permission. So all of those freed slaves were like the serfs in Russia. They just couldn't pack up and go. They were technically free now, but that doesn't mean they were free people. And so leaving all of that background detail out, oh boy, that's bad.
It's kind of like how people try to say that racism is over in America because we freed the slaves in 1865. Yeah, and then there was the failure of Reconstruction. There was the segregation, the Jim Crow laws. We practically had an apartheid state. You know, it didn't end in 1865. Hell, it's hard to say it ended in the 1960s. You know,
within my lifetime, I remember the shock that occurred when Captain Kirk kissed Uhura on Star Trek, and there was this outrage. I'm a Star Trek egalitarian. I'm going like, this is a problem. But that shows you what it was, even in the 1960s. And go back even farther. Civil War and stuff, that was all my major area in college. So when any of these trolls, including Dinesh D'Souza, decide to tramp onto my turf, excuse me, I'm more than casually familiar with this data field.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not, history is not really my thing. It's more science. But, I mean, it all applies equally, whether they're looking at science or history. And actually, we have Jungle Jargon in the chat, and he said, your sources are the claims themselves. That just shows you don't actually read them.
Yeah. Jungle Jargon, whatever happened? He wanted to come on my channel and tell me all about creationism.
Well, you are certainly allowed to have him on your channel, Peter.
He never got back to me.
Our dumpster fire.
Oh, Jungle Jargon. He's got a thing. They are all successive water-deposited sediments. Oh, not true. And we will ask the killer question. Jungle, at any point have you attempted to source fact-check the claims that you make? If you do not do this, you have just got a Tortugan alert.
I was going to say, you know what would be the funniest thing ever is if someone went to the Ark Encounter or the Creation Museum, and they're talking evolution with Ken Ham, and when the second he says, "Were you there?" you just say, "Yes."
I'm pretty sure you're not allowed
I have
to
a time machine.
I was fucking there, Ken.
You know, they don't let their people, talk to normies, or it was surprising that they let Nathaniel Jensen go on the non-sex show. They don't want their people talking to anyone who could make them look bad.
It's pretty much a cult at this point.
I mean, the talk between Ham and Nye, and I've heard it said if Ham weren't the absolute worst debater ever, he could have made a few decent points. Not true points, but he could have made some decent points.
Yeah.
But he's the absolute worst debater ever.
Let me tell you, you know how many hours of Not Your Witness I needed to watch to make Australians sound sexy again? After listening to Ken Ham mangle that accent with that bullshit.
I'd love to have a whack at Ken Ham sometime. Nye was at a tremendous disadvantage because he, again, is not a source methods person. He didn't really know a hell of a lot about the people he was about to debate. So Josh Rosenau of the NCSE did a kind of a crash course and showed him some Ken Ham videos. But you don't get to get the right perspective on stuff in a crash course. You've got to have a detail of it. And there were opportunities that just waded by. The moment they put up that damn chart that showed the ceratopsids on one of the things, it was one of the Creation Museum, I would have been on that. Boop.
RJ, they're doing that in, they actually have a ceratopsians in the chapter I'm about to look at where Purdom and Hodge get together and talk about what a kind is. They actually have a chart of ceratopsians. However, no psittacosaurids on the list.
Or do they have the protoceratopsids in there?
I think so.
Yeah, see, those are kind of squishy that they're having a trouble dealing with it, and I'm not sure what all. There's been a couple baraminology papers on the dinosaurs. We'll want to keep all of that stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
We're shop topic talking here. Don't mind us.
Yeah, the what is it? I love the nothing will ever beat. I think the Phil Center paper on using baraminology to group all the Maniraptor and theropods, including birds. Yeah. That was pretty great.
Yeah. It feels a lot like, you know, with this baraminology thing. It's like they're trying to make a paradigm for a story that they can't reconcile with reality.
Absolutely.
The same way that flat earthers don't have a flat Earth model.
Right. It's really it is that they are trying because they realize they have to get everyone on the
sciencey.
Yeah, right. It reminds me a lot of how, because I've been reading a lot about early Christianity, and early Christians had this problem. They didn't have they could proselytize to the poor, but they wanted, since Rome was a hierarchical society, if they got higher echelons into Christianity, that meant they can get more people in charge, you know? So one of the problems they had was, you know, the Gospels, the Epistles, these things aren't written in a kind of Atticized Greek from a movement called the Second Sophistic, you know? They didn't have any reconciliation with the Platonic paradigm they had, so they had to come up with a theology, because they didn't really have a coherent theology. One of the early Christian critics, Celsus, said that the Christians are like toads in a pond croaking at each other because they can't agree. There's Gnostics, there's the Ebionites, there's the modalists, the Ascetics, the proto-Orthodox, all arguing with each other.
Yeah,
and then,
there's a bunch of them. But remember, we don't even know all of what Celsus wrote, because all we have is the version that's cribbed by Origen.
And also Origen, I was actually going to bring that up, is that Origen, even like Christians, the reason not many Christians know about him today, like theologians, or if they do, they don't look at him with a good light, is because even Origen, who created essentially the first theology to reconcile the Stoic Platonic paradigms that they had with Christianity, which they did sometimes. The reason they could do it with other religions, like for example with Serapis and stuff, they reconciled Jupiter with these Platonic ideas, is because they didn't have scripture. Christians did. Christians had this linear view that we were with God, we fell from grace because we had free will, and
we got a paper trail.
Yeah, and that Christianity is about getting them back up. Origen tried to reconcile that by saying, okay, so this demiurge in Platonism is God, and we have free will, so we fell from the grace of the demiurge, the same way you Platonists think, and that Christ came to bring us back to the demiurge. Now, the reason that was a problem is because he noticed, okay, so if that's the case, that our free will is what got us out of place in the first place, and free will is the big point, that's the big gift right here. When we all get back to the demiurge at the end of days, do we still have free will? And if we do, does that mean some of us are going to lapse again, and it's a cyclical cycle of finding grace, losing it because of free will, finding grace, losing it of free will? Will Satan be Jesus? Will Jesus be Satan? Origen began to think up this stuff because that was the only way to reconcile it, and that's why Christians kind of started hating on him, because it's like, what the fuck, Origen? You were our theologian. We needed to be linear. You had to get us into Platonic circles.
One of the things that I call attention, I want you to read because the Bible tells me so, because I think you'll enjoy it. One of the things that I was struck by were the number of early Christian martyrs who were heretics. they would have been burned at the stake a couple centuries later if they had hung around, because they were Marcionites and all these various subsects. Saint Perpetua was actually a follower of one of these little, eventually deemed to be heretical sects. So that there was an enormous variety of early Christianity. And some of the analysts have compared some of them to like the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons in terms of their demographics. It's a fascinating a bunch of stuff that you pop out about it.
Yeah, so when it comes to that, I think Christians have always had this problem with trying to reconcile their beliefs with the dominant paradigm. I mean, look at what we have now. We have a paradigm based fundamentally on reality. That's science. We have these cosmological and biological paradigms, geological paradigms about how our Earth is shaped, how life, how diversity of life appears, how our cosmos formed, and these paradigms can be backed up by the fact that reality is there, and we can examine it, and we can examine the evidence. And so these literalists are having trouble. Their work is still ahead of them. They're trying to do what Origin.
I think trouble is an understatement. You know,
trouble is an understatement. They're fucked.
I mean, because we've gotten past the point where it's reasonable to say, or where it's, you know, we can't look at someone like James Usher and say maybe he's got a point, maybe he doesn't. We have to wait to find out. No, we've actually gotten past that point. It's unreasonable. We know now why, and you know. And so they're still lagging behind in every field for that reason.
It's gotten to the point where this fundamentalist view that they have is just not true. We could say, we could be Gnostic atheists. That's how bad it is. You know, because
I mean, I don't even go into like philosophic matters or whatever on my channel, but you're right. It is really that bad.
Yeah, it's as bad as
throw them over to my channel, Jackson. I'll take them.
Yep. Wait, you do philosophy? You want to do philosophy, RJ?
Everybody has a philosophy. They just don't necessarily realize they have a philosophy.
I believe that.
I'm by nature an analytical type, so I will jump up there.
I mean when I say
beyond the source methods to the data floor up to the philosophy level.
Well, RJ, when I say philosophy, what I'm referring to is arguing over something like the epistemology of a belief or something like that. That's what I mean when I say.
Don't bring up Steve McRae. I'm over it.
No, I mean, I honestly, I would be.
I've read some knockdown dragouts with Steve McRae.
I've tried.
And Peter,
I've tried reading epistemology.
Get us three in the room, and you'll see us explode.
I don't blame you, Jackson. I really don't. I honestly think that when it comes to philosophy, you really have to have a lot of patience, because there's a fine line between philosophy and sophistry, where you're just trying to discuss reality and how best to live it and how best to interpret it, and you have someone that has an agenda and wants to babble on about that agenda using big words.
Well, that's kind of how I feel about. Well, RJ, what was it?
Jackson, can I jump in real quick?
Well, we'll allow it
because RJ already mentioned that, and I don't think you noticed. I've had some fairly good discussions with RJ on the same topic, and so we have empirical evidence that people can disagree on a certain topic without any of the two becoming a total asshole towards the other one and still be friends.
What I was going to say
assholes, but we're charming ones.
Well, what I was going to say was,
RJ, I agree.
Was RJ? You had that guy. You had the Fodorian on your channel.
Oh yeah, the Fodor guy. The two that were defending him.
Because it's so nonsensical. I think because you're looking at this. Philosophy is important. Don't misconstrue. Philosophy is absolutely important. It's important to think about why we think about certain things and all that. But it's like trying to rebut a real world occurrence phenomenon with a philosophic argument. I was kind of hurts to think about.
Yeah, so
it's frustrating. The main philosophy point that I make is that you can define anything you want, you can lay out whatever your propositions are, but apply it to
a bit of orange.
Generalities have no meaning whatsoever unless you apply them to specifics. And specifics that you bring up need to have a connection to a larger philosophical implication. And it's that interplay that you start figuring out what people mean. But some of these presuppositional types and that you're just auguring in on define what true is, and you spend a half an hour or more on Steve McRae's thing on complete wheel spinning.
Yeah, that was our conversation with a bit of orange. We couldn't even get him to get past what even the heck evolution is.
I wanted to say that, philosophy is about, loving wisdom and knowledge and loving what's true, and what's true is what's concordant with reality. So it's basically the pursuit of reality, although philosophy gets a little bit more complicated by going into more abstract things like justice and ethics.
It deals with undecidable propositions.
But what's difficult is distinguishing that pursuit of understanding the nature of reality and how best to live with sophistry, because sophistry is rhetoric, and it's just annoying because you meet people who claim they're philosophers that want to play the philosopher, but when you sit down and actually talk to them, they're fucking sophists. They just go on and on with big words trying to elaborate some kind of argument for their agenda.
You heard? Did you hear? Were you in the chat earlier when I was talking about the creationist who said what I was saying was a deductive fallacy, and I was explaining how science works?
There we go. Yeah, that's what I mean. So, sophistry is something. There's a reason sophist is a bad word nowadays. Because sophist just means someone who's good at rhetoric. And if we lived back in the old days in antiquity, you would hire a sophist to teach you rhetoric. They were always hired by politicians and lawyers. Rhetoric is a bit important for pushing agendas, but if that's all you do, then people get annoyed with you. That's why Plato, in his book The Republic, there was that sophist, Thrasymachus, who was playing word games about what is just, and Socrates kept busting his ass down every time he would just ask him questions to wheedle out these word games that he was playing with abstract words. He realized, I'm up against a sophist. This is how you take them down. That's what Plato was essentially writing. And that's something I noticed with people like Jordan Peterson, for example. I don't think Jordan Peterson's I don't think he's a philosopher at all. I think he is a sophist. He has
he absolutely is.
He has a reactionary agenda, and his fancy speech, the way he uses abstract words to convey his ideas.
Depends on what you mean by Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So, for example, during his talk with Sam Harris, they asked him to define God, and he started going on with these abstract things. And the reason Sam was pointing out that the reason we have a problem with this ridiculously abstract sophist answer is that this is the definition he's using to demonize our demographic. And it's a definition that no one else knows, that no one else believes in, that people are trained in. He's just using his position of authority and his fancy words. Don't get me wrong, fancy words are important when you want to have a good discussion with someone, but you can tell when someone's being a sophist that they're doing it to push a reactionary agenda. And in his case, he has this weird reactionary agenda around this stupid free speech debate and something about the divinity of man. And it's like, Jordan, there's this reality. It's a thing. I'm sorry.
Well, he's not just wacky in that regard. There's a lot of stuff knocking around in his head that is just out there. Like the ancient Chinese knew about DNA because they drew a sort of double helix.
The ancient Chinese knew about snake fucking.
Yes, and so they could, it looks like a double helix, and if you look in like a young person, like an elementary school book, it looks kind of like DNA. So
and also, I know people will try to misconstrue me and say, "Oh, you're just not listening to what he says." No, I listen to what he says, and yes, I agree with his more or less liberal values in the same way I agree with the communist about workers' rights. But does that mean I think he's right, or that he's got a point with his reactionary agenda? No, I just think he's a sophist. If he was pursuing something a bit more important, instead of just making everything about abstracts that he's basically using for rhetoric, then you can't
apply it to something.
That's why
I'm constantly trying to apply stuff to things so that you can make sense out of it and learn. And if you come out of a debate with somebody and you don't know more than you did coming in, then that was a waste of time.
Yeah, that's what, when it comes to Jordan Peterson, I honestly said, because I wasn't a fan of his, because I read what made him famous, and I was like, he didn't read Bill C-16, or if he did, he had a reactionary, he had a ridiculous reaction to it, and it's like there's nothing wrong with protecting trans rights. That's all C-16 did, you know. That's literally the only reason he's famous, because he became a free speech martyr because they added trans people to the Human Rights Protection Group, which also includes men. But yeah, back to Peterson. Like what I was saying was, he, damn it, I forgot what I was going to say. Can you guys help me?
Brain farts are what old people are supposed to have. Theomaki.
It's just V. You could call me V. Theomaki is the name of my channel.
Okay.
But yeah, his reactionary. Oh yeah, now I remember what I was going to say. His attacks against atheists, I honestly predicted from the start. I was like, this is the beginning of the end for him, because like I kept hearing his name over and over again, and I just like, he's a sophist. What do I care if he's got a reactionary political agenda? Ben Shapiro has a reactionary political agenda, but I don't listen to him.
Don't you have to be popular anymore to have a reactionary political agenda?
Yeah, I could care less what his politics are. You know, that's why I really didn't care if people were fans of his. You know, it's politics. It's about value judgments. But the second he started attacking our demographic with this ridiculous sophistry of his, I've been saying this is the beginning of the end for him, because, you know, we know what sophists are, and he's...
One of the things I think is so strange is a lot of his audience is atheists.
Yeah,
you know, I've seen a lot of atheists and Gnostic people who are defending him.
I think that's much less. I honestly think that's much less to do with his position on atheism, and much more to do with just trying to reconcile this view of his against atheists with the political agenda that they agree with. I mean, I like Tolkien, but I don't have to defend his Catholicism. You know,
right?
I like. I like Caesar's works on his commentaries about the Gallic Wars and the Civil Wars. That doesn't take away from the fact that I think he's a genocidal maniac. You know, I like some of Aristotle's work, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I still think he's a sexist old man. You know.
Are you not a Platon, or you're not a Platonist or whatever?
That's a trick question. Shut up. Anyways, so the point is,
as long as you're not applying it in biology, we'll let it pass.
Oh no, Aristotle's biology was a mess. Yeah, because apparently Aristotle thought that Sparta was weak because they were a gynocracy.
Interesting.
Yeah, because he hated women essentially. I think.
Well, he was he was Athenian, wasn't he?
He was what?
Was he Athenian?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, that makes sense, because the Athenians had the very sexist culture, whereas the Spartans, I'm not saying they were egalitarian, but they had a much more, equal. They were much more closer to equal than the Athenians were, for instance.
Yeah, women had more rights.
Here?
Yeah, Aristotle was.
Yeah, the tutor to Alexander the Great.
Yeah, wrote the book on ethics and taught Alexander how to conquer the world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out how objects fell.
Yeah, it's because they had more earth in them. That's why.
that sounds about right.
The duty of the historian, and in some respects, you see, the reason why I can straddle both the fields in science and history, because they sound like they're dealing with different things, but they're not. They all have the same underlying source methods. The trouble with history or the complexity of history, is that unlike a geologist that never has to worry about whether the block of basalt is going to lie, human history can involve dissembling. So you have a much more complicated thing to look at. The monument is not merely a work of art, it's a piece of propaganda. So you can look at what agendas went into building it. That puts a layer of complexity for the historian, but it's still the same method of where you're actually looking at the available data and you're trying to work out what you think happened and construct it to pay attention to all of that. And it's no coincidence. The creationists make terrible historians.
There we go, yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to ask, what's your guys' thoughts on mythicism?
I was actually going to ask your opinion on it. You say mythicism, right?
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, mythicism.
I was actually thinking about asking you your opinion on it. I and RJ and I both think you don't have to argue about it to.
I think if you want my completely honest answer, and yes, I know everyone is going to shit on me. Every mythicist out there is going to shit on me. I just think it's a waste of time. It's an interesting conversation.
That's really what RJ and I have kind of agreed upon. You don't need to do it to get people to come over to our side.
Yeah, but more importantly, there was a historical Jesus. I'm just going to say that. Okay, let me just say what the silver bullet is. Okay, so we have 7 authentic Pauline epistles, and in one of them, Paul says in an off-the-cuff line that he met Jesus' brother. It's kind of hard to say that this guy didn't exist if he had a brother.
Well,
yeah, in fact, I think it's that brother aspect and the missing family that is implied in the various gospels that helps explain how the resurrection story happened. Want to hear my little working model?
Well, can I think it's fast? I'm going to give us about 2 more minutes, and then we're going to nix.
Oh, okay. I get to compress it in 2 minutes.
My
working hypothesis is that after the crucifixion and Jesus, whatever happened to his body and whoever took it for whatever reason, we don't know. But one of Jesus's brothers visited the disciples to kind of commiserate, somebody who hadn't talked with him a while. That's why the people in the gospel said they didn't recognize him as Jesus initially, because he wasn't Jesus. And then at some point, one of them suddenly got the idea that was actually the risen Jesus, and the poor schlub didn't have the heart to say no. So he just let it run on, and that planted the seed that there had been a resurrection that was a completely natural phenomenon. That's my little working hypothesis. Can't prove it, but nevertheless, I'm fond of it.
Yeah, so when it comes to mythicism, I just like, that's the silver bullet, that he had a brother and that someone met him. And of course, I've heard no good reply to this. I have heard no good reply. I've heard people dismiss it. I've heard people say it's fake. I've heard people say it was a forgery interpolated in there. I've heard people say that, I've heard the most ridiculous things. I mean, even Richard Carrier says that his thing against it is just, well, he doesn't use the word brother to say anything but Christian. But it's like in the same line, he also says he met Peter and distinguishes Peter from James, the brother of the Lord.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. To me, I don't need to have a historical Jesus. I can use the failure of the Perusia. That's my killer, because it doesn't matter whether Jesus existed or not. He definitely didn't come back to set up the kingdom, so we don't have to worry about that.
Right, the whole failed predictions, and he failed pretty much every prediction that was, almost all of them that were set out there.
Not if you hear Josh McDowell. He's just 100% correct.
Well, I love the Aaron Ross video on it that he put out over a month ago or so, where he just goes through a long list of predictions. He's like, this is why this one failed, this one failed, this one failed, that one failed. He just kind of went through all that. But that was really fun.
Yeah, I like the Potter's Field one because there isn't one.
It is now 11 o'clock where I am, and so
it's 6 here.
That's ridiculous, Peter. You don't sleep.
6 a.m.
I'm convinced people in Europe don't sleep at this point. Yeah.
So there are a few channels that are worth staying up for. One is Science Strikes Movie Night, and for your channel, I'm more than happy to stay up that late.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate your input. As long as you don't side with Matt on the issue of Star Wars versus Star Trek, we'll keep you around.
I think I can put that aside because we have a mutual struggle against creationists.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a lot more important than what we watch in our free time.
I think I just got your answer from that kind of sidestep of the question.
I was going to say
Star Trek beats Star Wars because they have transporters, and Doctor Who beats Star Trek because he's got the TARDIS.
I was going to say, the reason Star Wars beats Star Trek is because they're more realistic. Let's face it, when we achieve interstellar technology, we are not going to turn into Star Trek. We are going to settle our disputes in space with lasers, okay?
Probably.
I have a different reason.
Guys,
the reason
we can't continue.
Jackson needs
the
to
reason.
sleep.
Okay, so the reason
I've got class tomorrow morning.
The reason why I think that Star Wars beats Star Trek is because when Star Wars was made, a whole new version of doing computer graphics was invented. Something we still bear the fruits of. And so it brought us more than just Star Trek. We got all our CGI. I mean, without Star Wars, we wouldn't have a ball Earth.
Can I just me saying why I think Star Wars is better than Star Trek wasn't cue for everyone to the reasons. Jackson needs to sleep.
Yep, I do. It's also we've been broadcasting for almost 3 hours now. no one's gonna watch this after the fact. But it was fun having.
Don't say that. We did a 5-hour after show on Side 10, and people still watched us go through the proof of God. So, and that was 3 hours in.
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. But
no, not your witness. I'm not going to shut up because Jackson wants to go. I'm going to shut up because I want to go.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone in the audience, and I want to say thank you to you guys. Thanks for coming on. Everyone, thanks for watching. And so, we're going to terminate the broadcast. Bye, everybody. It will probably be a while before I actually put up like a real video, or it might not. But
because you got
that's
stuff
my prediction.
to do.
That's
this
my
isn't a real video.
This is a fake video. Anyway,
is CGI.
This is all CGI. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.